Please silence all electronic devices. Chair, you may begin.
I'm calling this meeting to order, and good morning, everyone. And welcome to the hearing on the Committee on Public Housing for the City of New York City Council. I'm Councilmember Chris Banks, Chair of the committee, and I'm glad to be joined by my colleagues who will be here a little later. But today we will hold an oversight hearing on Nycc's role in preserving and producing affordable housing in New York City. Nycc administers its affordable housing portfolio via Section 9, Section 8, PAC, and trust programs, and is the city's largest arbiter of affordable housing, overseeing more than 300 developments and over 170,000 apartments that are home to more than 500,000 residents. If Nycc residents made up a city, it would be larger than Atlanta or Miami, underscoring just how critical Nycc is to any serious efforts to address affordability in New York City. However, Nycc has been underfunded for decades at the federal and state and city levels, severely limiting its ability to function as both a landlord and affordable housing developer during an ongoing housing crisis. We are all too familiar with the consequences and conditions driven by disinvestment, mismanagement, that have left residents dealing with the unacceptable living environments. That reality is a travesty, and especially given the scale of the population that depends on Nycc every day. Today's topic is about how we preserve, produce, and empower and position Nycc to take a greater role in New York City's affordable housing agenda. But let me be clear, preserving public housing cannot mean continuously handing developments over to private management companies, while traditional public housing is left to fall further behind. When this administration chose to invest roughly $663 million towards PAC and privatization efforts, while allocating only $148 million towards traditional Section 9 public housing, it sends a clear and troubling message about where the city's priorities lie. At a time when residents are still living with mold, leaks, heating failures, broken elevators, and deteriorating infrastructure conditions, that continues to impact both physical and mental. We should focus on making serious, direct investments into preserving public housing, not continuing a cycle of disinvestment in developments that house hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. And quite frankly, after years of residents being told to be patient while conditions continue to decline, it is beyond time for fresh eyes, stronger leadership, and a fundamentally different vision for how Nycc operates and serves its residents. That status quo has failed for far too many families and for far too long. And at the same point, this city must stop managing decline and start demanding accountability, urgency, and real leadership that treats public housing residents with the dignity they deserve. And at the same time, Nycc has historically played a role in not just it is a role not just as a housing provider, but as a developer. There is renewed interest in expanding the role, whether through proposals like the Community Service Society's Revolving Housing Construction Fund, or Nycc's own requests for expressions of interest for developing new housing on Nycc-owned land. Clearly, there is an appetite to empower Nycc to do more in both preserving existing housing and producing new affordable units. This is why today's hearing is very critical. We need to understand how Nycc can be positioned both now and more moving forward as stronger and more proactive affordable housing actors. That means not only preserving the existing housing stock, but also ensuring that Nycc plays a meaningful role in producing housing for future generations. Today's discussion will explore the tools currently available to Nycc, the challenges in preserving public housing, and the authority's role in the mayor's broader housing agenda. I'm particularly interested in how Nycc is thinking about its Section 9, PAC, and trust portfolios, and how those strategies are impacting residents. Just as important as we will directly hear from residents and advocates about their experiences and what they expect from NYCC and its partners moving forward. I would like to thank my staff, Michael Lambert, Kyle Graham, all the Public Housing Committee, Jose, Charles, Spencer, Renee, James, Calby, Noah, Samia, for all the work that they've put into this hearing. We've been joined by my good friend, Councilmember Ganacion, Elsie, I like to call her. And we've also, any other member? Oh, and Councilmember Marte is with us via Zoom. Thank you. Next, we will continue. We will welcome the testimony from NYCC, and I will turn it over to the committee council to give the affirmation.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
We do.
You may begin your testimony.
Thanks. Are we able to pull up the PowerPoint?
They're working on it now. They're pulling up a PowerPoint, so please be patient. Yeah. It's all right. Do we have the PowerPoint ready? There we go. You may begin your testimony.
Great, thank you. Chair Banks, members of the Committee on Public Housing, other distinguished members of the City Council, our NYCC residents, community advocates, and members of the public, good morning. My name is Heather Beck, and I'm the Deputy Chief Real Estate Officer for NYCC, and I am joined this morning by Brian Honan, our Executive Vice President of Intergovernmental Affairs, and by Dylan Baker Rice, our Deputy Chief Asset and Capital Management Officer. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss NYCC's efforts to strengthen and preserve affordable housing across the city. The foundation of our mission is to improve the quality of life for New Yorkers that we serve. Our work spans a variety of important initiatives that both renovate our current housing stock as well as enable the creation of new affordable housing. We have rehabilitated and developed thousands of homes with many thousands in the pipeline. As you said, NYCC's aging buildings suffer from significant capital needs. And for decades, federal funding has been woefully insufficient to provide them with the regular investment that all of our properties need. For these reasons, it's imperative that we pursue new and innovative models for funding, construction project delivery, and partnership, all with the goal to deliver to our residents the homes they deserve and to bring our buildings the investments that they desperately need. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Sorry.
Can we go to the next slide?
I don't think any
Sir. The next slide. They're controlling it. Okay. You can continue your testimony and we'll come back to your slide.
Yeah. The Permanent Affordability Commitment Together, or PACT program, and the New York City Public Housing Preservation Trust, or the TRUST program, are the cornerstone of our efforts to improve resident quality of life and to ensure our buildings will be here to serve generations to come. Developed in collaboration with residents and carried out through extensive resident engagement, both initiatives convert our developments to a more stable Section 8 funding stream. This funding stream is worth nearly double what our developments receive from the federal government under Section 9. This healthy funding source enables us to fully revitalize or rebuild our buildings. These initiatives also ensure that NYCC developments remain under public control and that residents maintain their rights and protections. This includes permanently affordable rent. Both programs rely on the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program to make the transition to Section 8. More than 44,000 apartments across 169 developments are in pre-development under the PACT program, under construction, or have completed construction through PACT. This represents over $16 billion in capital repairs and upgrades that NYCC would not have access to otherwise. Our current pipeline will bring comprehensive repairs and upgrades, along with enhanced property management and social services, to more than 142,000 NYCC residents. The trust will also dramatically...
To the admin, to Nycc, can you pause for 1 minute?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, we're figuring out the technical issue with the slide. So
That's fine.
thank you for your
Yeah.
patience.
You can stop there, yeah.
All right, you may begin your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The trust will also dramatically transform our residents' homes. To date, 4 developments have voted to join the trust to unlock funding for much-needed renovations to their homes. Last year, the trust signed design-build contracts for projects to modernize nearly 1,400 apartments at Nostrand Houses and Bronx River Edition. This represents nearly $500 million in building upgrades. And these stats are included on this slide. Please go to the next slide. The next few slides will show photos from our different preservation programs through both PACT and Trust. On this slide, you can see examples of completed kitchen work at Linden, improved sites and grounds at Baychester, new windows and improved facades up at Edenwald, and you can also see examples of bathroom repairs at Reed Park Rock, a living room at Harlem River, and the upgraded lobby at Independence Towers. Next slide. This slide shows the design center that we created in partnership with residents at East Chester Gardens, a rendering of upcoming lobby work to be performed at Sac Wern, and planned improvements to the sites and grounds at Robinson. You can also see several examples of our model units at Boston Road Plaza, Boston Secor, and a model unit at Bayview. Next slide. This slide shows the renovations planned at 2 of our trust sites. On the top row, you can see the Nostrand model unit with a new heat pump, renovated kitchen and bathroom. The bottom row shows what the renovations at Bronx River Edition will look like. This includes repairs to the bathroom, living spaces, and the kitchen. Next slide. Centering resident priorities and expertise is fundamental to both programs. Residents are involved at every step of the planning process. They help lead the selection of our partner teams, they help us prioritize areas of investment, and they work in partnership with our partners after conversion and throughout construction. Together, our residents and our PACT partners are creating detailed community plans that capture all of their planning and engagement work that they do together during the pre-development process. Now I'd like to share some data on our conversions and the progress we've made with our communities through these vital tools so far. You can go to the next slide. Starting in 2022, NYCC partnered with BFJ Planning, an independent planning and consulting firm, to conduct a comprehensive survey at our PACT sites. And as you can see on this slide, 77% of respondents recommend the PACT program for other NYCC developments, and nearly the same amount say they feel more stable in their living conditions. This is because residents are very satisfied with the new management and the renovations at their site. 77% of residents who responded are very satisfied with the repairs to the buildings, and even more are satisfied with the renovations to the grounds. NYCC will continue to survey residents and collect their direct feedback on these 2 programs. Survey responses will help us understand what is working And they will also help us determine how we can improve the program so that NYCC and our PAC partners can learn from our progress. Next slide. In our public oversight role, NYCC collects reports from our partners every month to monitor their progress in closing work orders and to ensure that they are being responsive to all resident needs. On this slide, you can see that from those reports, our partners are closing work orders in a very timely manner. The PAC program also provides immediate benefits for our residents by improving their living conditions. And given the large-scale construction happening across the city, it also provides an economic opportunity for Section 3 employees. The Section 3 program sets hiring and training requirements to ensure that these opportunities go back into our NYCC community. To date, nearly 700 NYCC residents and other low-income New Yorkers have been hired for construction and operational jobs at our projects. The federal government requires that 25% of all labor hours performed through the program are provided by Section 3 hires. And as you can see on this slide, our PAC partners are exceeding those requirements. Next slide. The PAC program also plays an important role in addressing the authority's HUD agreement pillar areas. For example, PAC partners have abated over 4,000 apartments, abated lead in over 4,000 apartments. And boilers and elevators are either modernized, repaired, or replaced at all of our PAC sites. By repairing and replacing 482 boilers, our PAC projects have exceeded by nearly twofold the HUD agreement target of 200 boilers. And the PAC projects similarly exceed the HUD agreement elevator target by more than twofold, with 328 repairs and replacements. Next slide. As we pursue innovative housing preservation programs, we are also strategically investing in the needs and resident homes through our regular capital program. Despite the limited federal funding available, NYCC is completing more capital work annually than at any point in the authority's recent history. From 2021 to 2025, we invested over $5 billion in capital improvements across our portfolio, completing over 800 construction projects and steadily increasing annual expenditures to $1.25 billion in 2025. For residents, this has meant new roofs, heating systems, elevators, resiliency measures, waste and pest management assets, and security infrastructure. This also means upgraded apartments, playgrounds, sports courts, and community centers. And this work has created the equivalent of over 620 full-time jobs for low-income New Yorkers, including our NYCC residents. Next slide. Our comprehensive modernization, or CompMod program, will complete holistic capital improvements at select developments instead of simply repairing individual building components. CompMod projects are active or planned at 7 different developments where they will transform our residents' homes thanks to nearly $1.2 billion in total funding. CompMod projects typically involve full apartment and common area renovations with heating and plumbing system upgrades, as well as hazardous material abatement and elevator modernization. Site selection for CompMod has focused on sites most in need of substantial renovations based on work orders, leak tickets, and mold complaints. The first 2 sites, St. Nick Houses and Toad Hill, which are on this slide, are part of the City Capital Action Plan to address lead and mold in apartments. 2 other sites, Gowanus Houses and Wyckoff Gardens, were added to focus more on plumbing upgrades with bathroom and kitchen renovations. These 2 sites were funded as priorities by the community through the Gowanus rezoning effort. And the last 3 sites, Leavitt, 1471 Watson, and Latmer Gardens, are fully funded federally through Hurricane Ida FEMA grant money, along with CDBG, DR funding, and state funds. Our ability to scale further the CompMod program is limited. This is due to our funding constraints, and we want to be clear that given current federal funding cuts to public housing, the PACT and Trust program are the only major programs that we can scale across our portfolio. Next slide. We are working creatively to not only rehabilitate Nycc properties, but also to foster the creation of new housing for our existing residents and to build new affordable housing to help the city address our current crisis. The redevelopment of the Fulton, Elliott, and Chelsea campuses represents one of the largest investments in our communities in recent history. The plan envisions a new future for Nycc residents, one where our households will have access to amenity-rich buildings that support not only our current families, but for generations to come. Redevelopment through the PACT program will also provide all existing Section 9 households with new homes, guaranteed affordable rent, resident protections, and continued access to community programs and services through through the construction of a new state-of-the-art community center. Redevelopment through the PACT program keeps these buildings under public ownership and oversight. The plan will also provide new affordable housing for New Yorkers in an opportunity-rich neighborhood. Last year, Nycc released a request for expressions of interest to solicit potential projects from partners on private land. We're exploring the expansion of public development through opportunities that can serve Nycc residents and other low-income New Yorkers. Building on the success of programs like the PACT program and Trust, this new endeavor further pursues public development and the creation of affordable housing in all 5 boroughs. We are tapping into Nycc's resources as the largest landowner in New York City and going back to our roots as a public developer. The RFEI invited members of the real estate community to propose sites or existing private buildings where Nycc can use our flexible tools to achieve these aims. Nycc will soon identify projects that will help us advance the 3 distinct goals that were outlined in that RFEI. Those were to increase high-quality housing opportunities for our existing residents, to generate revenue for reinvestment in our Nycc communities, and to expand low-income housing opportunities for other New Yorkers. Next slide. Over the past 10 years, nearly 1,600 units of affordable housing have been built across 11 new buildings. These have been constructed on underutilized land at our Nycc developments, such as parking lots or storage spaces. And many of these beautiful, new, affordable buildings, such as Casa Selena in the Bronx and the Atrium in Brooklyn, feature rigorous sustainability standards, as well as community facilities and retail, which serve new residents, as well as the greater community. A subset of these apartments, of apartments in these buildings are set aside for our existing Nycc residents. And next slide. An exciting evolution in the affordable housing construction program is our use of a HUD tool called Transfer of Assistance. This is a federal tool often used in other cities across the country to offer Section 8 apartments to existing public housing residents in buildings that are constructed on either our land or on privately owned land. 4 Transfer of Assistance projects are currently in our pipeline, and we look forward to exploring how this tool can provide new housing for our residents at other developments. In addition to affordable rental opportunities, over the past several years or decades, Nycc has helped more than 300 residents become homeowners through the Federal Housing Administration Homes, the FHA program. These are homes that Nycc acquired in the late 1970s and early 80s. And we are currently moving forward with the plan to both rehabilitate and facilitate homeownership opportunities for the remaining 123 FHA properties. This is yet another example of how Nycc can provide stable housing and opportunity to our residents through the creative use of federal tools. Next slide. We are home to more than 500,000 New Yorkers, and with our robust work to preserve and create affordable housing, Nycc is integral to the efforts to ensure that New York City is an affordable place to live. We appreciate the support of all of our partners, including members of the council and other elected officials who are helping us make progress on this vital mandate. Mayor Mamdani plans to launch the administration's housing plan soon, and we can then discuss with the council how our efforts integrate with his plans and vision, along with our strategies. In the meantime, we are happy to answer any questions about the authority's comprehensive work to strengthen and preserve affordable housing in the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. We've been also joined by my colleague, Councilmember Wrestler. Uh, Before I go into my line of questioning, I just want to read this. I want to remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members will have the opportunity to give testimony, and at that time, you will have the opportunity to give testimony and speak. Thank you. Now, we're gonna go into a line of questions, particularly dealing with the PAC program, and I mean more directly, we want to know how many public housing units have been converted to PAC to date, and is this the goal? Is the goal still? Are you still? Is the goal still to reach the 62,000 PAC units by 2028?
Yeah, thank you for that question. As I shared earlier, we have converted just over 31,000 units, so 31,467 units have converted through the program. In that tranche, 15,000 have completed construction, so that's 15,292, just about half. Construction is underway at 16,175.
Okay.
We are also engaging and planning with residents at 14,222 units. So in total, we have identified over 45,000 units to participate in the program. And we are working towards the goal of converting 62,000 units through the PACT program. In addition to that, we have the ability to convert another 25,000 units through the Preservation Trust program.
And based on recent federal budgets and ongoing conversations with HUD, is there any risk of the Congress reducing the projected project, targeted project-based Section 8?
So
or reducing the funding to project-based Section 8?
Yeah, we have the authority from HUD to convert those 62,000 units, and
Right.
the RAD conversions are not impacted by the federal budget, to our knowledge.
Okay, PAC deals typically requires additional subsidies to close the financing gap, and often they normally get the funding from HUD. I'm sorry, from HPD. What is the average HPD subsidy per unit in 2024 and 2025, and has this amount increased year over year?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think I'd like to start to just clarify that our subsidy that we receive from the city is not HPD subsidy, but it is city capital subsidy.
Oh, it's city capital, okay.
Yeah, and it's a great multiplier for the authority. It's a great way to leverage city funds to make an investment in our properties. In 2024 and in 2025, we converted 32 developments. So that's 148 buildings. And the average subsidy per unit was $146,087. And that has changed a bit year from 24 to 25.
Has
but
it
not,
increased?
Not incrementally.
Okay. What is the total per unit capital investment at PAC sites, including the private debt, the LI, HTC, HPD, and Nycc financing combined?
Yes, so since the inception of the program, the total repair cost that we've invested in our properties is close to $10 billion. So it's at $9.9 billion. And the total repair cost per unit across those 31,000 units is around $316,000 per unit.
Okay, so then how does that compare per unit investment at trust and the comprehensive modernization sites?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at this moment we haven't closed a trust project. We anticipate closing our first trust projects later this summer or this year.
Okay.
So we'll have final costs to make those comparisons at that point.
In the comptroller's December 2024 audit found that the PAC eviction rate was 5 times the Section 9 rate. What are the current eviction rates at PAC trusts and Section 9 sites? And what is the rent delinquency rate as well?
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that report. I think Nycc would like to just clarify a few statements that were made in that report. The report makes a number of exaggerated claims about property eviction rates, especially them being significantly higher than Nycc's eviction rate. The difference between the two rates that are shared in that report is 0.17%. So that is less than 1%, less than 1/4% of a difference. So we really want to make sure we're looking at the data accurately when we're characterizing our eviction rates. For the past year, the eviction rates at the PAC sites was 0.39 eviction rate. Nycc's Section 9 eviction rate was 0.3. These are very close to each other, and they are both significantly lower than the city's eviction rate, which is 0.6%.
Okay. And what is the rent delinquency rate?
I don't have the rent delinquency rate in front of me, but I can share that our PAC sites, we have a rental collection rate of around 84% for 2025.
Okay. And what's the rent delinquency rate for Section 9?
For Section 9, it's about 450 million.
Does Nycc track the eviction rates by PAC operators?
We do, yes. Yes, okay. So in our monthly reports that we collect from partners around legal proceedings, we collect information on the outreach that our partners are conducting. We require, through our retention guidelines, that partners are leveraging their resources, especially through the social service providers that are at each site, to connect residents to resources and opportunities. If they're struggling to pay rent,
right,
we want to make sure that they're paired with support and services to help address that. So we collect information on all of that outreach as it's conducted with each household, along with information on any legal proceeding as it goes through housing court. So we have that information on a property and a property management level, and that's all on our website as well.
Okay. And has there been any enforcement actions that Nycc has taken against any of the operators that have above average rates?
No, we have not needed to take any action. We don't see any partners with above average rates. And like I just said, the eviction rate is comparable to Nycc's, and it is still lower than the New York City's rate.
Excuse me, council member, I just misread the number. Actually, the Nycc arrears is 475 million.
475 million. Thank you for that correction. What are the total number of vacancies in PAC sites?
Yep, give me 1 second now. So as of April of this year, so earlier this month, there are 1,840 vacant units across our PAC portfolio. This includes a number of units that are being held as vacant so that our partners can temporarily relocate people across the campus to facilitate repairs. Much like we had to do, I think, at Fiorentino Plaza in your area, we have to hold those units vacant so that
right,
people are not in their homes when we're removing hazardous materials.
Can a PAC development be converted to the trust if residents request a based on property management issues?
Can you repeat that question?
Can a PAC development be converted to the trust if residents request, if based off of property management issues?
So our control agreements.
You get the question, right?
Yeah, I think
okay.
You're asking if we could switch from a private property manager to Nycc, back to Nycc management under the trust model. Is
correct?
That what you're asking? It's an interesting question. So we have, through the PACT program, a control agreement that kind of dictates the terms of our expectations and the work that our partners would do at the PACT site. In that agreement, we have outlined ways that we will work with a partner team to address deficiencies, issues, and any concerns if we are worried about their performance as a property manager. I promise I'm answering your question.
Well, how are they scored? How are they? What is done to come to that determination? Are surveys done with the residents? And is there any language in the agreement that allows for Nycc to pull out or to change the partner or to go into another program?
Yeah, so as I was explaining, the agreement dictates the terms for how we could do that.
Okay.
So we would follow the language even in the control agreement that outlines that we would, notice and send a notice of noncompliance to a partner team if there were significant issues. We would work with them to develop an action plan to address those issues. And then if we absolutely had to, we do have the ability to remove or replace a team at a site. But I think that we would do that in the last case or worst case scenario. Changing or removing a property manager or a development team at a site is very disruptive and can, be kind of a worst case scenario.
Well, I mean,
we do have the ability
right.
to do it, but we do it only after those action plans or, the work with the team hasn't proven to.
I mean, if they're causing disruption, then it would make sense to listen to the residents, right? And remove that particular PAC partner.
If we absolutely needed to, we have the ability to do that, yes.
Okay. Has there been any examples where Nycc has stepped in and removed a PAC partner?
There are two examples where the development team at a property decided on their own terms to change a property management company. That happened at Hope Gardens and at our Manhattan bundle. Those were examples where the team at the site made that business decision.
Right.
And Nycc also has to agree to those changes before they can take place. And we agreed that was an appropriate step, and those changes occurred after they came to us with that recommendation.
Okay. How many residents have been temporarily or permanently relocated during PAC renovations?
Yeah, temporary relocations are becoming more common at our PACT sites. We started doing temporary moves with the Harlem River and Williamsburg PACT projects. This is where we were fully abating all of the lead-based paint and asbestos. And when we started those temporary moves, we required that the team do them on campus. So I was explaining earlier, we have to hold vacant units so that we can move residents within the community to facilitate the work in their original unit. So we have a number of sites that are in the midst of this process, and I don't have a specific number for you of.
Okay, well, you can get that to us.
Yeah.
Temporary and permanently relocated.
Yeah, we don't have any permanent relocations based on repair work that's happening at a site. There are examples of a household moving to a new unit to facilitate the repair work, and they might request a permanent transfer to that unit. Sometimes that happens if it meets like an ADA or a reasonable accommodation request. But we still consider those on-site transfers. We don't consider those like capital R relocation.
Well, what about when you do right sizing? Would that be considered a permanent relocation?
It's not considered relocation.
Well, they're moving to a different unit.
Yeah, they are moving to a new unit, but it's within the campus, and it's only within the campus once a unit becomes available.
Okay. So right sizing won't lead to a resident being placed in another development that's in the portfolio of that particular RAD PAC partner.
It only happens at a development by development basis.
What are the physical needs of PAC sites? What are the physical needs of the PAC sites prior to conversion? And what is the percent change in physical needs post conversion?
So for the PAC sites that are in our planning and engagement period right now, that's the 14,222 units that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
The total capital needs for that portfolio is just under $7 billion. That amount and the known capital need at each of our sites must be addressed through the repairs and renovations by the PACT partner. So we do additional assessments at each site to understand like the breadth and the scope of the capital needs. When we submit our application to HUD to convert the property, we have to show that the investments being made by the partner team address 100% of the known capital needs upfront. Sometimes there are investments that NYCC might have made previously, like previously to elevator or windows, that the team won't need to replace or do immediately, but that will be part of their capital plan. Okay. And they will be able to address those things later on.
Right. I'm going to come back to my questions because I know Councilman Belsey has to go to another committee hearing. So you have the floor, council member.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
So there's a lot here, and there's so much to cover. I did want to talk about the survey really quickly because I saw that there was some numbers there, and I mean, just for the record, if you starve someone for 30 years and you offer them peanut butter and jelly, it's gonna taste like steak, right? Like that's just what it is. But in terms of the survey, I saw that there was 850 people that returned their survey. How many were surveyed?
We have rolled the survey out at, I believe, 5 different sites, and we're doing a lot more this year. So we're in the process right now of mailing to a number of other sites that have completed construction. And so...
Yeah, but you mentioned 77% were happy with it, but you mentioned 8 developments and 850 people returned their survey. Out of how many?
I'd have to get those numbers. I don't have them in front of me. And it's 77% of the respondents.
Right. So if 850 people responded, it's 77% of that, but we don't know the number of people that chose to not respond, and we don't know that how many.
We do work with the consulting team that distributes these to continue distribution until we hit a response rate of at least 15% at each project.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to, okay, so I think we know where we're trying to get to with that, but I wanted to also talk about the vacancy rate of the buildings that you are converting, maybe in the engagement piece, because as you know, the city council is fighting to get some of those vacant units in Nycc back online because it is one of the most affordable, the only real affordable housing that we have left in the city. Yeah. And so now these buildings are going into a different track. So I'm trying to figure out how many current vacant Nycc apartments that are either in the engagement phase that are going to be turned over and essentially lost to the Nycc portfolio.
Yeah, we can provide you that. I don't have it in front of me today. But as I said earlier, as our capital needs are growing at each of our sites, the need to relocate people on campus to facilitate repairs is growing. And I think we would anticipate needing to move people out of their units so that we can do all of the necessary work at almost all of our upcoming projects.
And is it your policy to allow any Nycc resident to attend public housing meetings and developments that they don't belong to?
That's a good question. I don't think I know the answer to that. Do you?
So I don't think we have a hard and fast policy, but oftentimes at the request of the tenant associations, they would, so if we're meeting, say, at a certain development, they do often ask that it's residents only, and we'll respect those requests. But it's not a hard and fast policy.
But it's not a Nycc policy. So
that's right.
In essence, and I think you know where I'm going with it.
Yep.
So you can, Nycc residents from other developments can attend Nycc meetings if the TA president has no problem with it, NYCC doesn't have a policy against it.
No, I mean, we've seen both, right? We see sometimes there are residents from, all over. Sometimes we see there's non-residents, but sometimes when the tenant association president says, like, we really want to make sure that the residents of this development really absorb the information and make sure that they're engaged properly, they request for some meetings that it's just residents of that development.
Yeah. I'm just making sure that the information is able to be shared. If residents from other developments also have information that they want to share with their peers, I think that, getting into those meetings is important. So just wanted to be on record with that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, council member. Just want to backtrack when it comes to vacancies that exist within the Rad Pack developments. In my conversations with some of the Rad Pack partners, they complained about NYCC being very lackadaisical with helping to fill some of the vacancies that exist within in their particular developments. What has NYCC been doing to speed that up so those vacant units, because NYCC does play a role with filling those vacant units, am I correct?
Yeah,
So if a development has, one particular development has 40 vacant units, what is being done? And those, I believe those units have been rehabbed already, am I correct?
Yeah.
So why is it taking so long to fill those units?
Yeah, a couple notes on your comments. We will work with the team to fill vacancies typically once the rehabilitation's done at a site. Our role in filling vacancies is through the leased housing department. So
Right.
as a Section 8 administrator,
Right.
all vacant units are filled by households from the Section 8 wait list. And our leased housing team will provide each of the property managers that list, and it's the property management team's responsibility to go through that wait list
Right.
based on household
But
composition.
there
and
is
apartment size.
there is an existing waiting list.
Correct. Yeah. And
There is a need to fill those vacancies.
yes.
So
And
my question to you: why has NYCC been taking so long to fill those
it is actually
vacancies?
the PACT
when
partner's
there's a need?
responsibility to use the list and work their way through the wait list.
Are you aware of how many developments are vacant in each Rad Pack development?
Yeah, so through the leased housing department, we collect vacancy reports. We have a understanding of the
So
vacant
you're aware
units.
of how many vacancies are
We
broken
are
down
aware.
per development?
Yeah.
So my
and we
question
provide
again
each
is,
team-
why is it taking so long to fill those vacancies when there's a need? And you said earlier again that there's a waiting list. What is NYCC not doing to get those units filled that in those converted developments?
Yeah, and I'll say this one more time. The leased housing department provides our partner teams the list, and our teams, the property management teams, are the ones who work through that list to identify households to fill units. So it's the responsibility of the PACT partner to match households to their vacant units.
So that list is provided to the Rad Pack partners?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Well, they said that it's taken a long time, and
Yeah, and
they're blaming NYCC for slowing the process up. So my concern is making sure that those vacancies are filled and that list is decreased. So if y'all can work together better, hopefully y'all can get that done.
Understood. And if you have any examples or specific teams you'd like us to...
Boulevard houses.
Okay.
Linden houses. What's crazy is that you have the list. You know the developments where the need is at. So I mean, I shouldn't have to sit in and give you a breakdown of what developments are needed. So please check that list and fill those vacancies. Let me get back into my line of questions. What are the annual developer fees and asset manager fees and property management fees at the PAC sites on a per unit basis?
Yeah, so each fee and each of our projects varies based on the specific needs of that project. And if we share that detail, it hampers our ability to negotiate the lowest costs for future deals.
Okay. And pack sites, well, when it comes to the units, how do those compare to fees under the city land lease agreements? And what amount are developer fees capped? And does this cap differ between the for-profit versus the nonprofit developers?
Yeah, and as I said, we can't share those details as it will hamper our ability to negotiate those fees in future projects.
But it is public information.
The fees that our teams receive is not public information, to my knowledge.
Okay. So it's your testimony that that's private information.
That is information that Nycc is not comfortable sharing because it hampers our ability to negotiate in future projects.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'll go on. We've been joined by Councilmember Wong. Have cash flow payments associated with the Brooklyn Bundle 2 begun?
Yet that development converted and completed construction in 2022.
Okay. And you're not going to release the fees that came from that Brooklyn Bundle. You won't release that information, right?
No.
Okay. A report from the Enterprise Community Partners and National Equity Fund analyzed that 428 affordable housing projects in New York. It mentioned that the insurance costs have more than doubled, and developments operating at a negative cash flow have grown from 22% in 2017 to 57% in 2024. Of the Nycc PAC conversions, how many are currently operating at a negative cash flow?
I don't have that information in front of me. We can get back to you with that.
Does Nycc track the negative cash flow as a financial health indicator for the PAC partner?
Yeah, on an annual basis, we collect projected budgets, our anticipated budgets, and actuals from each of our teams. So we do have an understanding of each of the project's finances on a year-to-year basis.
We've been joined by Councilmember Hanif. So you do track the cash flow of the, okay. Does Nycc track the negative cash flow health of any trust partners?
As we shared earlier, we have not yet converted a trust project, but we will do that through our property management and asset management oversight.
Is there anything at the state or federal government level that could be done to help affordable housing developers and property owners with the insurance costs?
I know it's been talked about a lot. The governor actually in last year's budget did offer some relief. I also know that some developers in New York City have created their own, sort of like an insurance co-op. And that includes some of our partners, like Susan Camerata, who heads that. So I think there's a lot of different creative ways of looking at this, but it is something that across the whole industry, it is an increased cost that over the last few years is very concerning.
Okay. And to backtrack on the cash flow payment, the cash flow of the Rad Pack partners, is that also assessed or looked at when they're competing for other developments? On how they manage the finances?
Yeah, we have a comprehensive understanding of how each of our projects is performing. That includes responsiveness to resident needs, work order submissions, their ability to close out work orders related to mold and leaks,
Right.
along with the finances, and along with the the eviction prevention measures. So that is a comprehensive view we take of each of our projects, that we can take of each of our projects. And when they are submitting to a new proposal or for a new project, we can look at that. We also include our residents in that conversation and process.
So that's done through, how's that done? Through
We
survey?
do that through, well, we solicit proposals from project teams through an RFEI, which is a request for expressions of interest.
Right.
Once we receive those proposals back, we'll look at them to ensure they're complete and that they're viable, so that they have a real proposal to take to the residents. Then we form what are called resident review committees, and those resident review committees look at the project proposals with us, ask us questions. They can ask us questions about their current property management practices, and then they interview the potential partner teams with Nycc.
Is there an opportunity for them to speak to tenants from their any current development that they're managing?
Yeah, absolutely. And we
And
have
how's
helped
that done?
facilitate that. We have also taken residents on tours of properties to show examples of the work, so that they're getting a really holistic understanding of.
Do you pick and
product.
choose? Because I haven't seen any residents come out to Linden houses or Boulevard houses or Penn Workman houses.
We just recently issued an RFEI for
Right.
our next round of sites. Prior to issuing that RFEI, it had been a number of years since Nycc had issued one. So we haven't facilitated resident review committees in, I would say, maybe 2 years, 2 or 3 years. So that might be why. And it would depend on if that project team submitted a proposal to the RFEI. We have not started those review committees yet, so
Right.
that is something we'll do in earnest this summer.
Well, my district would love to be a #1 candidate to bring some of those developments that are being placed in the RADPAC program to come and speak to some of the tenants who've already gone through conversions or developments who've gone through conversion. So hopefully you would consider that, so you can get a real look. They can get a real look at what the conversion has meant to them or their experience.
Noted.
We've been also joined by Councilmember Hanif. And when it comes to public housing preservation trust program, can you please provide an update on the developments that have selected conversion to the trust? And how many of those developments have selected conversion to the trust thus far?
Sure. So to date, we've had 8 elections. 4 developments have chosen the trust. 1 development chose PAC, and 3 have chosen Section 9. Of the 4 that chose trust, it was Nostrand Houses in Sheepshead Bay, Highland Houses in Bushwick, Bronx River Edition in the Bronx, and in Unity, which is also known as Coney Island Site 1B. Yep.
And what is the 2026 trust vote pipeline, and how many developments will be offered a vote to this calendar year?
Sure. So we just concluded 1 election at Nycc Houses on the Upper East Side, and we're going to look to probably do at least 2 more this year.
Okay. Has the trust issued any bonds backed by the Section 8 subsidy and authorizing up to $10 billion in bonds?
To date, not yet.
To date, not, yeah. Okay. Would Nycc consider using trust to build new affordable housing on Nycc-owned land?
It is certainly a possibility, and it's certainly some of the properties that we're looking to convert, especially Nostrand Houses, definitely does have developable land. So it's something that we would work with the residents to do, and if it's something that they would like,
Right.
it's definitely something that can be done.
But it seems like the appetite has been more to place Nycc developments into RADPAC. Am I correct? Based on
So the trust is new. right? It was just passed in 2022. We had to like literally build an entire new organization, hire staff, put together a board, put together election rules, which we worked with advocates and residents to do. So it's still very, very new,
Right.
but I think, you know, I do think that we will start to ramp up. I do think that we will hit our 25,000 goal, and then we'll have to go back to Albany and ask for more units as well.
Okay. Has NYCC recently asked the state to expand the trust cap or increase bond authority for NYCC or trusts?
We have not asked for any amendments to the original legislation at this time, but we do plan in the future to, you know, revisit this issue, especially as we're getting closer to the 25,000 cap.
Okay. Comparing a trust and a PAC, what is the rent collection percentage at PAC, trusts and Section 9 developments?
So as we shared earlier, we have not yet converted to the trust sites yet, so we don't have data on rent collection for those properties, but it is something we'll collect. And as I shared earlier, the 2025 rent collection rate is, I believe it was 84% at our PAC sites. And I don't know the percentage.
Good percent.
I mean, as Section 9 side, at the end of last year was about 65% for the entire year. Some months were better than others, but for the entire year it was about 65%.
Okay. And who within NYCC or the administration decides whether development is placed in the PAC or is offered the trust?
So I think this is different departments working together. Our capital projects department and our real estate department work very closely with senior staff. They look at the assets and they look at the capital needs and decide which program works better. All of our developments could use serious investment. So all, you know, either one of these programs could make sense for any one of our developments. Where we do lean towards trust properties right now is, remember, the trust requires an election. And the
Right.
first step for the election is meeting with the residents at the development to see if they're open to an election. Doesn't mean that they're open to one of the programs, just that they're open to an election. If they say yes, then that begins a whole process to start that election. And going back to what I said earlier is that the trust is still very new. We want to make sure that the trust can finance these early projects. We will close our first one in about July, and we will know so much more just from that first initial closing, and that will set us up more in the future. So those are some of the factors. And I don't know, Heather, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, and I think just for some additional context for the PAC sites, historically, when the program started about 10 years ago, our first site was converted after Sandy. It had a significant disaster recovery funding from FEMA. Then NYCC had looked at our properties that were not funded, so our unfunded sites from the federal government.
Right.
We also looked at the sites that NYCC has the hardest time managing, so scattered developments or buildings that don't have a nearby property management office, or where we've had a really hard time just even with logistically managing a scattered portfolio. So those were some of the initial reasons and rationale behind how we selected our first PAC sites. I think we are also all looking at the developments that have the highest need, highest number of work orders or mold and leak issues.
When given a choice, it has been reported by the Community Service Society that residents have picked Section 9 or the trust over PAC. Is there a plan to increase the number of properties that are offered to be part of the trust?
I think it goes back to what Brian was saying just a few minutes ago. It's a new program, and we do, have a goal of converting 25,000 units through the program. That'll remain our goal.
Just to add to that, so right now, as Brian said and Heather shared, the trust is a new program. So with the 4 developments we've spoken about, that's 1,776 units. So we're very early in the stages for the 25,000 goal.
And is there any sites that are going to be closing for the trust come this January? I mean, come this July.
Nostrand houses will be our first to close, and that will be in July. We have a model unit. In fact, we just did a tour with the TA presidents in Brooklyn South, and it's really beautiful. Chair, we'd love to have you see that out in Sheepshead Bay. The development that would be next would be Bronx River Edition, and that should be sometime in the fall. That is a 2-building senior development, and so we're really excited about both of those projects.
And when it comes to the voting process, in 2022, the trust legislation guarantees residents at trust eligible developments a vote among 3 options: staying in traditional Section 9, joining the PAC, or joining the trust residence development that Nycc selects directly for PAC. Outside of the trust process, they're not entitled to a comparable vote according to the law. Is that correct?
That's right. There are 2 different programs. So the trust was created under state legislation. PAC, which nationally known is RAD, does not have a voting requirement.
Okay. Is there anything in HUD's rules that would prevent Nycc from voluntarily giving PAC designation the same 3 options to vote as trust residents receive?
There's nothing I know that would prevent us from doing it, but I do know that we're going way beyond what the engagement, considers.
But there's nothing that would prevent you from giving residents, if you place them in the RAD PAC program, the opportunity to vote.
That's right.
It can be done.
Can be done, but we really do believe though that engagement is the most important thing, making sure that residents understand.
Well, voting is a form of engagement, right?
It is. Yes,
giving them the information
Correct.
and allowing them to make the choice.
Correct.
So it is for the record that it can be done, but you're choosing not to do it.
I think what we're choosing to do is go way beyond what the federal requirement is. The federal requirement really is 2 meetings.
Right.
And putting the development in the annual plan. We meet for about a year. We also have residents who are part of the selection process who work with us on scope of work. None of these are required, but we do believe at the end of the day, we end up with a much better project when residents are involved. The more residents are involved, the better the project.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to my line of questions. I'm going to allow Councilmember Hanif to ask her questions. Councilmember.
I appreciate it, Chair Banks, and good morning. Good to see you, Brian, Heather, Dylan. I would like to come to District 39, comprehensive modernization at Wyckoff Gardens and Gowanus Houses. So at a time when we're investing in kitchen modernization and upgrading electrical capacity, residents are going months without reliable cooking gas access. At Gowanus Houses, residents at 414 Baltic Street and 215 Hoyt Street, approximately 125 households, are currently experiencing a 3 to 6 month cooking gas outage affecting entire buildings. Could you share what steps Nycc is taking to align comprehensive modernization investments and recurring emergency repairs related to the cooking gas outages?
So thanks so much for the question, and also thank you for your advocacy in getting the original $200 million. That came to both of these developments. I'm very familiar.
200 million, you said,
200
right?
million, correct? Yes, exactly. 200
So
million.
I was like, did I hear 200,000? Because that's
No. 200 million. I apologize. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the gas outage. I was at the original lobby meeting, and the word inconvenient is definitely understating what residents do go through when they go through a gas outage. And there'll be another meeting tonight too to inform residents. Turning gas on is very regulated and for good reason, because you want to make sure it's done as safe as possible. We are going through all those steps. We explained to the
Could you just share more specifically what the steps are,
Sure.
particularly at such an unprecedented moment for both of those developments?
Yep. So the first step would be making sure that there are no environmental hazards, meaning asbestos, right? So we want to make sure, if there is asbestos present, and in many buildings they are because when they were built, we have to totally abate the asbestos before we can do that work. Tonight we'll be able to tell the residents, about the work that we've done in advance to check that out. In addition, after that, we do need access to residents' apartment, and we will have to replace the gas risers, and then work very closely with the Department of Buildings and the utility companies to test the lines to make sure they pass an integrity test. And only at that time, when DOB signs off on all the work, is gas able to come back. And then the utility company also does a test and they sign off. So it's a lot of different steps. It's more like a capital project than it is like, I think our verbiage maybe sometimes also, causes some frustration because outage, it sounds like, like when we have a heating outage and we could send a team out there and, work on the boiler and get it back. But, yep.
Could you share what the timeline for restoration looks like, particularly because comprehensive modernization is intersecting here?
Sure. I will start and then pass to my colleague Dylan, who works in capital projects. But
Hold on 1 minute, Brian.
Sure.
I'm gonna actually turn the chair over to you for a few, and I'm gonna make a run. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So quickest we see is about 3 months, 90 days.
And that's
but
for every development, irrespective of whether they're going through
that's correct.
modernization
That's correct.
projects.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So that's and that's going through the work, the filings, the working, the coordination with residents, the coordination with the various other government entities and also the utility companies. But I will pass over to Dylan, who.
Yeah, as Brian shared, typically a gas restoration can be a capital project because of the length of time and significant investment. In the case of Gowanus houses, similar to other developments, it's 3 months. That's the typical timeline because of both the testing, the upfront testing for abatement requirements, apartment access, pressurization of the line, and then we have our own inspectors that we work with DOB so they can inspect, and then we have to coordinate approval before switching that back on. The two are running in parallel. Obviously, where we can, we want to renovate the units first and then address it through the comprehensive modernization. We are completing at the first building and have had residents move back in. This is at scale across the development, so we're coordinating with property management so that the work is done in parallel. We know that residents can't wait for continuing phases. So for any of the residents in the next building, we'll plan to do the modernization and replace the kitchens. But for the rest of the buildings, we'll move through the gas restoration process.
I mean, I know that this is extremely frustrating,
Yes.
especially because this has been a recurring issue at Gowanus houses, since we're talking about that alone. And for the repairs, specifically at Gowanus houses, the cost is $600,000 for these repairs. Has Nycc conducted a cost-benefit analysis comparing continued investment in repairing gas infrastructure versus finally transitioning to electric cooking?
We have done that analysis at other sites.
Could you share what the cost?
It's particular to the individual developments because the biggest impact that we're finding, obviously, all things being considered, we would love to shift away from gas and electrify. But in order to electrify and meet the requirements for, say, an electric range, which is typically 220 volts, we have to invest in significant electrical upgrades. And so it's the same thing at Gowanus. We'd have to invest in significant electrical upgrades. And that varies. Some developments, the electrical infrastructure is good. We can use existing risers. Other ones, less so. I don't have a cost comparison for you
I
particularly.
mean, I'd really love to understand what the cost would look like. I mean, I feel that it is more costly to wait on the transition and piecemeal fix, restore gas outages at these developments.
Yeah, I'm any of the other comprehensive modernization projects where we have the ability and funding, we are shifting towards either electric stoves or as part of our sustainability agenda, we have a pilot for induction stoves, which is more of a plug-in where it doesn't require as much voltage. So that's a real goal for the agency. We have a pilot of 10,000 units that we're working on, or a goal, sorry, of
I'd love
10,000 units.
for us to be considered for any pilots. I mean, I think wherever there's modernization taking place,
Yep.
we should be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to go through and have new kitchens, new bathrooms, and then your gas is out for months on end.
Yeah, we agree. The cost, I think, at Gowanus would be significant for the electrical upgrades, but we can come back.
And given just the scale of the outages, what is Nycc's long-term electrification plans?
Nycc's goal, as outlaid in the sustainability agenda, is compliance with local law 97. So we're moving towards that goal. We have a pilot program and we're rolling out heat pumps. There was a meeting, a press announcement with the mayor last week on Wednesday. There's a commitment to 20,000 apartments to get heat pumps. So as much as possible, we're looking at what are the different ways we can meet electrification. But the goal is project specific depending on funding. So,
And where's the funding sourced? Is it coming from council members, mayor,
for the comprehensive modernization projects,
or just the electrification pilots that you're talking about?
electrification is happening through either city funds, city capital action funds, or it's happening through FEMA funds, significant federal investment. It varies according to sites, but that's part of the reason why we're advocating for PACT in the trust is
What's the runway for full electrification?
we're not able to achieve full electrification with the deficit of funding that we have. And so that's why these
So with
other
what we
avenues-
have, how are you looking at the timeline?
the timeline to achieve full electrification.
Not full, but at capacity, or the current funding that we have, how much would that go towards electrification? Like what percentage of
We'd have
development?
to come back with a number. I mean, the funding that we have now for the comprehensive modernization, is only for 7 sites. So
And
in order to achieve
that's
at scale,
without the electrification
yeah,
efforts. Okay, well, I think that's an efficient strategy for thinking about long-term climate equity and health. Just 2 more questions. How is NYCC verifying contractors' compliance with environmental health and safety protocols, including containment, monitoring, and clearance procedures following in-unit lead and asbestos abatement as part of comprehensive modernization?
So compliance is number 1 for us. Both lead and asbestos are closely monitored. It's part of the requirements of the contract. And so we have construction management oversight as an independent firm that we hire. We have NYCC staffers. We work closely with our own lead hazard control department in Healthy Homes to make sure that there's compliance, that we meet all the regulations and meet the goals that are set out in the contract for abatement.
And that's following the
That's following the-
completion.
That's part of the process prior to unit turnover, yes.
Got it. And how has the assessment been across contractors in terms of the getting the job done and making it viable for residents to move back into their apartments?
Well, at Toad Hill, we've had the first turnover of 142 units. That's been a big area of focus, making sure that we work with our internal colleagues. So we're meeting the requirements, yes.
And then finally, what policies are in place to ensure that units that are not being exclusively held offline for temporary relocations, what are in place? And then how is NYCC prioritizing emergency and in-development transfer requests during comp mod?
We prioritize, well, it depends on the development, but we prioritize moves within the development. If there are emergency needs, we have staff on site. We have engagement staff that's part of the design build contract. So it's important that they meet with residents. There's individual assessments that are done of each unit prior to move. And so if there's reasonable accommodations or emergency requests, we're able to accommodate those as needed.
And then for the units that are potentially being held exclusively for the temporary relocations, how are we making sure that that's not a permanent feature?
That we're not permanently holding the
Yeah.
units.
Mhm.
Well, we're holding the units. There are some renovations that are done prior to the tenants moving into them, and then we move back. Certainly across the developments, we have a long wait list, and so I think there's no shortage of need. And once the project completes, we occupy, or the anticipation is, well, fully occupy the building and all units. So there shouldn't be any held afterwards.
Certainly, and I know that this council and with Chair Banks, we're pushing to make sure that those units are viable and folks can move in immediately given the housing shortage and affordability crisis. And I just want to make a final ask. My constituent, Timothy L. Brown, who was brutally beaten up by undercover police officers, has requested an immediate transfer, and it is taking much longer than it should. And I'm pleading that we get him out of Gowanus houses immediately. He is traumatized.
Yeah,
He is not doing well.
Because I'm very aware of this, and we've escalated it. So, and I can talk to you offline about his individual case, but yes, we're aware of it. So we can definitely work together.
Okay, holding you to it.
Thank you. Back to the comprehensive modernization and public housing. How many units have gone through the comprehensive modernization program?
3,696 units currently, and we have another 602 planned.
Okay. And what is the per unit comp mod cost compared against the PAC and trust?
As my colleague Heather shared, it's similar in cost. It's a bit apples to oranges because at St. Nicholas and Toad Hill, we're engaging in full comprehensive modernization, which is closer in scope to PACT. But at Gowanus,
Do you have a number?
It's roughly the same number.
It's about, okay.
Yeah. But Gowanus and Wyckoff, those are just kitchen and bathrooms, so it's
Right.
significantly less because we're not doing as much. There aren't full unit renovations.
I know in some of the RADs, they've thrown out numbers like 300,000 per unit to fix a unit. Was that number pretty accurate?
Thank you for that follow-up. As I shared earlier, we are around 316 per unit.
316,000 per unit.
Yeah,
It's being
and just
spent.
as a reminder, that is the costs that go into the building upgrades, so all the capital work.
So that's
in
okay.
addition to
The unit. What's-
in addition, yeah, all the building work, the unit work, and social services,
Right.
property management staff, security enhancements, so that all of the costs for the project are inclusive in that per unit cost.
Do you have a breakdown how much goes exactly into the unit itself?
On an apartment by apartment
Correct.
basis, I don't have that in front of me.
Can we get that information, please?
Yeah, I'll see if we can pull that.
And also, too, if we can have a breakdown of the costs per unit of a gut rehab, in-place rehab.
We can pull that.
Okay, thank you. Is NYCC planning to expand the comprehensive modernization program?
At this time, no, we don't have plans to expand it further because we don't have additional funding. The last three projects I mentioned, that are in the planning phase.
Right.
That's through federal funding. We had a significant grant from FEMA through Hurricane Ida. So that's a comprehensive modernization plus some floodproofing. Barring additional funding sources from the federal government or other ways, we don't have a plan to expand further.
And council member, if I can, the first two comprehensive modernization projects, one at St. Nicholas, one at Toad Hill, came out of funding from the city under the 2019 federal agreement.
Okay.
The next two projects were from the funding that we just talked about, from the rezoning funding in the Gowanus area. And then we also had some smaller developments that got hit by Ida, and the amount of funding that they're going to get from FEMA will be able to cover, much of the cost for the comprehensive modernization. So these are a bit like unicorn projects,
Right.
but if there were additional funding, anything's possible with funding.
Okay. And what's the typical time frame it takes for funding approval and to completion for the modernization project?
Typically, it's around 5 years. It can be a little bit faster, but working through the FEMA process takes longer. So these projects we're delivering through design build. So there's a 2-step procurement process initially, and then a construction period of roughly 3 to 4 years.
And at Toad Hill, we're well underway. We've had buildings where residents were relocated, total rehab has been done. Now the residents are back,
Right.
and they're really beautiful apartments, and people are very happy with it.
Okay. And how much federal capital money is Nycc currently receiving, and how much is dedicated to CompMod?
So Nycc receives a bit more than $700 million in federal capital funding. Last year it was flat, which is essentially, I would say, with inflation and tariffs and things like that, is a cut.
Right.
But that funding is not dedicated for comprehensive modernization. These were one-off funded, one-off either appropriations from the city, appropriations from FEMA, or the rezoning funding.
Okay. And how many capital projects are active in the Nycc portfolio right now?
As of right now, we have 506 active capital projects.
And how many residents are temporarily relocated during a typical CompMod project? And what protections exist for their rights to return?
They have full protections for rights to return, and the number of residents that are relocated will depend on the individual projects. As Brian shared, we just completed phase 1 for Toad Hill.
Right.
At St. Nicholas, we're in process for 2 buildings, and we're working through the next phase for Gowanus and scaling up for Wyckoff.
Okay. And are the CompMod relocation agreements for tenants the same as the PAC and trust tenant, the same as the PAC trust as tenants receive? Is it the same agreement?
Yeah.
The residents have the right to return to their unit.
To their unit. Okay. Now, when it comes to homeless placement, funds from the emergency housing vouchers, the EHV, we know will soon expire. Can you provide us with an update on this situation? We know last year Nycc planned on transferring those tenants to federal Section 8 to the federal Section 8 voucher program. Can you update us on that plan as well?
Sure. So this is really one of these, I've never seen anything like this. So the federal government issued 50 vouchers for families who are experiencing homelessness or domestic violence victims. And Nycc was able to rent up to 5,218 families. This program was supposed to last for 10 years, so from 2020 to 2030. Unfortunately, last year, the federal government said that they were going to stop funding the program midway. So in November, the program will expire. We have been in contact with these residents, either through email, through letters, and through phone calls, making sure and that they update their information, apply for public housing, and our goal is to offer them all an apartment. So far, 1,027 of these 5,218 have applied, but that's very early. The letter just went out a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
so we're going to continue the outreach to make sure that we hit as many as possible.
So the tenants that are currently on the subsidy, are they already in a unit already, or are these
Yes,
folks
they're
waiting?
they're in the unit that they
Right.
they rented up when the program first started.
Okay.
So, but we really need them, and really will work with them to make sure that they apply for alternative housing.
Has there been any conversations with the Rad Pack partners to move some of those uh, tenants into those vacant units that are rehabbed already?
Yeah, so we've been in contact with all of our RAD and PACT property managers. We will use the vacant units at their sites that are not being held for the temporary relocations
Right.
to help find placement for the households who express interest in that option. So the letter, I believe that Brian is referencing, gave them some different options for how to move forward. So those that want to will have that as an option.
It's been reported that Nycc will offer emergency housing vouchers, alternative subsidized housing options such as public housing, and for public housing there's been, particularly we know there's a long waiting list. Are emergency housing voucher households being placed ahead or giving any type of preference or priority?
They will have a priority for new housing, just due to the circumstances. Yes.
And how many of the EHV tenants have been placed already or relocated?
None yet. We're at the first step of the process. We need them to apply, and then we're going to start matching.
Well,
them
how
to-
many have applied?
Oh, so far
And
we
is
have,
it on an ongoing basis as they apply, you're finding a unit
That's
for
correct.
them?
Yep.
So how
And
many have?
So far we have 1,027 who have applied, and that's just the beginning. The letter, as I said, went out about 2 weeks ago, so we will continue to do our outreach to make sure that everybody who's interested applies.
Okay, and how many? All right, so please update us as to how many of that 1,000 will be placed. So I guess obviously it will go up since the letter has just recently went out. How many homeless households have been placed in Nycc units in 2024 and 2025?
Sure. So in 2024, on the public housing side, we have placed 768 families into units. In 2025, that number is 1,008. So in in year to date, it's 176. So in total, that's 1,952 families.
That have been placed. Okay.
On the Section 8 side, in 2024, we were able to place 289. 2025, 379. This year, 88. So in total, between the two programs, it is 2738. So 2,738. In addition,
That's Nycc Section 8, or is that
Nycc Section 8, correct.
Okay, got you.
Nycc Section 8. And in addition, we also have the VASH program, which serves homeless veterans, and that number, going back to 2020, has placed 1,594 homeless veterans in housing.
Okay, and how much or how many of the homeless shelter referral have targets PAC or operators have come from PAC operators?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So we track the homeless placement across the entire Section 8 portfolio, not to the individual developments. So we don't have the specific number for where those referrals have landed, either in the PACT program or other project-based Section 8 buildings. But it's coming into NYCHA.
So once it comes into night, so you're saying you're not.
Yeah, we don't track
track to see
like
if they go to a
specific
PAC
building
or,
they go to. Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
So we wouldn't know how many of those have been placed in PAC developments.
No, but if they're on the wait list, they're part of that Section 8 administration that we're overseeing through our leased housing department.
Okay, what resident selection and shelter referral preferences do PAC sites follow?
Yes, so a similar answer. Our PAC sites are receiving the wait list from the leased housing department. They are not getting referrals directly from shelter.
Okay, and what share of the PAC operators have met the referral or preference targets?
There is no referral or preference target for the specific properties. They just come through the Section 8 waitlist process.
Okay, and what has there been any enforcement actions taken by Nycc for noncompliance?
There are no requirements, so there's no non-compliance.
Okay. When it comes to development partnership opportunities, particularly with the request for expression of interest, Nycc released the document development partnership opportunities. Sorry about that. Nycc has released the Development Partnership Opportunities, RFEI, in August of 2025. How many submissions has Nycc received, and is there a pipeline of viable projects?
Thank you for that question. And the RFEI is really an opportunity for Nycc to explore opportunities outside of our campus footprints. And so that was an RFEI asking for proposals from private properties or private property owners. We received over 50 submissions to that RFEI, and we will continue to work through the applications, interview teams, and we hope to have some projects that we're able to announce publicly later this summer.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the chairship over to Councilman Neef. I'll be right back. I'm needed for a vote.
I'm sorry, did you already respond to how many submissions Nycc received
We
for
did,
the RFE?
yes. There were
Okay.
over 50 responses.
50 responses. And then are there viable projects on a pipeline for them?
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll continue to interview and review those submissions. We hope to have some public projects to announce later this summer.
And is there a minimum project or unit size threshold for Restore Rebuild?
For Restore Rebuild, that is one of the tools that we mentioned in the RFEI. I don't believe there's a minimum, and that's not something we're considering in our project designation.
Got it. What PHAs has Nycc studied or consulted with on how Restore Rebuild could be implemented in our city?
I know that the Restore Rebuild program is something that other public housing authorities have leveraged. I don't know that we've studied or interviewed specific PHAs recently, but it is an interesting question.
And what is the expected timeline for the Restore Rebuild project from site identification through pre-development, mixed finance, closing, construction, and route conversion to occupancy? And at what point in that timeline do the units shift from Section 9 to project-based Section 8?
We do not currently have any Restore Rebuild projects in our pipeline.
Got it. So this is just future thinking.
Yeah, there is a potential for using that program. It's a federal tool. In the RFEI that we released last year, we named a few different federal tools that we could leverage. One of them is Restore Rebuild. Another one is Transfer of Assistance. We can also use our project-based vouchers to provide housing to residents. There's a number of different tools that we can use on future projects, but we don't officially have any in our pipeline other than the transfer of assistance projects I mentioned during our testimony.
And then does NYCC have like an advocacy arm that pushes to, bring in the money or the funds or the programmatic needs that it just desperately requires?
Brian, answer.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably Amtrak's best customer. I spend, between going to I was just in Washington last week, meeting with HUD, meeting with appropriators. So we are regularly down in Washington. We're also regularly up north in Albany too, pressing for needs. Basically, so wherever there's a dollar, we're looking for it, and we do talk regularly to other PHAs to see what they're doing and to see, to use the programs that they're using. We are, though, in a lot of ways, though, the leader in a lot of these programs. As Heather, mentioned earlier, we've converted 30,000 units to RAD or PACT. The next city is Chicago, and they're around 8,000. So we were late to this game, but we've certainly caught up.
Under the Faircloth limit, how many public housing units could NYCC build if funding were available?
So our current Faircloth authority is for 175,288 public housing units. That is the total universe of public housing units that NYCC can have in our portfolio.
Can have in your portfolio
Can have in our
means?
portfolio, yeah. We currently have 151,000 current public housing units. So the difference between those two is the amount that we could build through Faircloth or activate, and that is 24,147.
And could you just share, for the record, why the 175 number, why we're capped at 175?
The background for Faircloth. So there was legislation that was passed in the late 90s, I believe, that would not allow public housing authorities to build additional or new units. So what you had in your portfolio at that time was kind of like your baseline. As we convert units through different programs, particularly through PACT to project-based Section 8, our ability to activate or build back the Section 9 units has grown. So the difference between our current portfolio and that 171 number is primarily made up of the units that have converted through the PACT program.
God, I appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure that folks tuned in and here in the audience. And can that funding be a combination of public and private financing, or is federal capital funds required to build these units?
The Faircloth program has a few mechanisms to build back units. We are exploring those with the federal government, but the funding for those is something that we are trying to determine with the HUD team now.
Thank you. Under the Faircloth limit, sorry about that. Do apologize. On December 2025, NYCC released a separate RFEI to find partners to renovate and to preserve 27 NYCC developments, which we call a cluster. How were these specific 27 developments selected, and how many of the developers are in the pre-qualified list?
Thank you for that question. I'll ask our team to pull the number for the pre-qualified list. It is the pre-qualified partner list is on our website. You can access that at any time. We will pre-qualify a partner team to be a developer, a general contractor, or a property manager.
Okay.
I think there's near 200 entities that are qualified, but we'll get you the exact number. anyone who's on the pre-qualified list can then submit a proposal to the RFEI. So the RFEI we released in December had proposals due in April, earlier this month.
Right.
We just received those back, and we'll start to go through the due diligence of those, making sure that they are complete proposals, that they are proposals from teams that have been pre-qualified, and that all of the firms can be members of the partner team. We will start that, and just to finish that thought, we'll start the resident review committee process that I was explaining earlier.
Right.
We'll start that in earnest with residents this summer, once we've gone through and made sure all of those proposals are complete and adequate.
And have you started the community engagement process in those particular? Well, I know in my district you have.
Yeah, we have. We have. So we identified those sites in a similar manner that we described earlier, really looking at developments that had high physical needs and other operational and maintenance issues, ongoing maintenance issues. And then we started engagement with residents last summer. And that's really to share information about the program, the steps we're taking to move forward with the program, and to invite people to participate in our process. We want to have robust review committees. We want that robust resident engagement. When we have proposals, we want the residents to participate in that process. And once we have a team identified for a site, we really want our residents to come join those planning and pre-development meetings where they're helping us prioritize investments. They're picking the different types of finishes and work that will happen in their buildings, and helping build out a property management plan, a social service plan, and a security plan for each of those sites.
In the 3 developments that are part of the cluster in my district, I think it's Long Island Baptist, City Line, and Unity. Has there been any opposition that you've experienced to these conversions?
At any of our sites, we are hosting meetings, and we're open to feedback from all of the residents.
At the meeting, has there been any opposition to the conversions?
There are residents that are skeptical of the program and have expressed concerns with us moving forward with PACT at the site. We are moving forward with the program at those sites, given the need of each of those developments.
And what's the capital needs assessment for those 3 developments?
Let me pull it up for you. So East New York City Line has a capital need, a 20-year P&A of $62 million. Long Island Baptist has $97 million.
Hold on.
Unity Plaza.
Long Island Baptist has?
$97 million.
$97 million. Mm-hmm.
Unity Plaza, sites 17, 24, 25A, has an $81 million capital need. And then Unity Plaza, sites 4 through 27, has a $216 million capital need. And those are P&As that were conducted in 2023.
Okay. And the other 20, I guess it was 24 developments that are being considered, do you have a collective number for all 27
We do have a
developments
collective number. Let me see if we can pull that for you for the record.
In the meantime,
might
we've
have
been
to get
joined
back to
by
you, yeah.
Councilmember Chiose. Order, guys. If you can get us those numbers,
Yes, we
I
will.
appreciate it. And when it comes to the pre-qualified list, and you said you'll get that information to me, how many of these firms are WMBE certified or nonprofit developers?
We can provide that breakdown to you when we send you the list. We have tracked that in the past, yes.
Okay. And I know there's also been concerns about the Section 3, how the RADPAC partners are not mandated to follow the Section 3. What is Nycc doing about that when it comes to is there any way to enforce, any way to enforce or encourage them to hire locally?
Yeah. As I shared in my testimony earlier, the Section 3 program is a requirement of the
Oh,
RAD
okay.
conversions. So any of the work that is completed as part of the construction scope is required to have that 25% labor hours be Section 3 labor hours.
So, do we have a breakdown of those converted developments where they've met that 23 or 25%?
Yeah. Overall, we are exceeding the goal. We're at 29% of labor hours are Section 3 labor hours. That's across our entire portfolio. There is a breakdown we can provide you as a follow-up, but I do want to share that information is updated on our website quarterly, so you can see for any of the projects that are in construction, you can see the progress they're making towards that goal online.
So, this is through construction into when it gets to the management phase as well, and
Just through construction.
just through
So
construction.
the RAD program requires Section 3 only on the scope of work for the capital
For the construction, for the
repairs.
capital repairs. So, on the management side, they don't have to hire locally.
It is not a requirement of the program.
On the Nycc, Section 3 is mandated on when it comes to management as well, right? The groundkeepers and that's also for fulfilling the Section 3 requirement under Section 9. Am I correct?
So hiring in-house staff definitely goes towards our Section 3 goals, yes. And I think it's around 20% of our staff is.
So why is it not a
Section 3.
requirement for under the RAD packs on the management side to hire locally?
It's just the way the federal program was set up. But in my experience, and Heather could probably speak to this more, is that there are local hiring, in the management stage as well too. But even though it's not a requirement,
Does Nycc track that since it's not a requirement?
We don't track it. We don't have the capacity to track outside the federal requirement, but we do know of residents that have been hired at one site. They might also go work at another PACT project if the construction wraps up. Let's say at Linden, maybe they'll go work at a construction project in Harlem. Some of our teams have made longer term hires from those Section 3 hires to work in their property management offices, but it is not something we check.
All right. When it comes to Nycc as a public developer, the Citizens Budget Commission in 2018 estimated that Nycc developments could accommodate additional 58 million square feet of development. Since that report predates major zoning reforms, PAC conversions, is that number still accurate?
Yeah, and if I can answer, we do have the P&A number for the cluster sites, so
Okay.
I can just provide that for the record. We did break that RFEI up into three different clusters. Each of them, the first two, cluster A is around 340 million in
Right.
P&A.
Just hold on. It's 27 altogether.
Yeah, and I can give
And-
the
okay.
overall together is over $2.5 billion in physical needs.
Okay.
And we can provide you the breakdown for each of those if you'd like.
All right. No, we'll appreciate it if you can get that to us.
Okay. So to answer your question about the
the
development
square
rates,
foot,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely. We aren't entirely sure what the methodology used for the CBC report, but we have done some of our own internal analysis to understand the impact of the recent changes on our development rights, and we do see an increase in the total square feet of development rights on our property. We think that is above 80 million square feet now.
Okay.
That's our own internal analysis using our own methodology we're not sure how that directly compares to the methodology used by CBC. I do just want to say that even though we have additional development rights available at our sites, we don't necessarily have a plan for how we will use all of those at the time.
Right.
To use or leverage our development rights, we need to have an adjacent property owner that is willing to accept them or needs them for a project. We are kind of bound by those laws or rules for how to transfer those development rights. And we want to take each of those opportunities to residents and really work with communities to see how we could leverage those. And we have not started conversations related to the change in zoning at our properties yet.
Okay. And when Nycc sells or transfers air rights, does that money go to specific Nycc developments that contributed to these air rights, or into Nycc's general operating fund?
Yeah, it'll always go back to the host community.
So it goes
and
back to-
something we've
okay.
done more recently is pair a transfer of development rights with a pact conversion, so that we're really leveraging the opportunity to sell those development rights with a more comprehensive capital investment versus some of the smaller capital projects that we were able to do at projects that sold development rights a number of years ago. It depends on how much funding we're able to leverage, but some of our prior projects, we can invest in computer rooms or some other community spaces. If we leverage the sale of development rights and include that with a pact conversion, that funding helps cut our need for city subsidy and really kind of gives us a bigger boost for that comprehensive capital investment for a site versus, an investment in a community or like computer room.
Has there been any discussions with any of the RADPAC partners who've have developments converted already? Has been any discussions over air rights or any discussions on infilling?
At our converted sites?
Yes.
We do ask our teams to consider redevelopment opportunities or new construction if there is a space for those at the site, but we don't have anything in our current pipeline.
Has there been? So has there
There
been
have been discussions.
Discussions.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important for us to ensure we're leveraging opportunities where we can.
Can you provide what developments you've had? What's RADPAC partners you've had those discussions with?
I think so. Yeah, we'll see. I'll check on that.
Okay. How is the value of Nycc's air rights determined?
So there are a number of factors that go into understanding the value of development or air rights. I think the most significant is the location and also the ability to build or the zoning for that lot and that block. So those are things we take into consideration when trying to understand the value that we could unlock at a site.
Right.
We have to have our sites appraised, and we do that work with independent appraisal, and it does depend a lot on the host community and the host site, what we could build in the context of the neighborhood.
Okay. Are there any regulatory changes in the city or state level that would expand Nycc's access to financing or development authority?
Not that I'm aware of.
And the Community Service Society's October 25 blueprint recommends Nycc or the trust to serve as the city's primary developer. Does Nycc agree that it is the appropriate entity for that role?
So we've looked at the report, and I want to thank the Community Service Society for always being such good partners. Isaiah Thompson is somebody we speak to often. It's very interesting ideas, but it would require, if we were to implement all of their suggestions, it would require state legislation, zoning changes, government consolidation, and additional funding. We're open to having those conversations, but they would also, of course, the city would have to be a partner in that as well.
Okay. And what are there any changes? What changes would be required at the federal and state and local levels for NYCC or the trust to function as a city public developer?
Well, the report made a lot of different changes, so it made a lot of different suggestions. So if we were going to change our board structure, for instance, it would require state legislation. The zoning changes, the council, it's something the council could do. Government consolidation would be something we would work with the city on, and funding, depending on the source,
Okay. And how many undeveloped lots are in NYCC's ownership portfolio right now?
Excuse me. We have just over 100 vacant lots, 108, and that's split pretty equally across NYCC owned and PACT converted sites.
Okay. And how many of these lots have current issues, and what are the uses? What are they using them for now currently?
I don't know in terms of current issues. I think there are a lot of different uses for our lots on our campuses. Sometimes a lot will be listed as vacant, but it is actually maybe in practice a baseball field or green space. It might be used as a waste yard or a community garden. It might be a very, very small lot on a large campus. And so there are kind of more unofficial uses of those spaces other than just thinking them as underutilized.
We're going to come back to my line of questioning. I'm going to allow Councilmember Osei to ask his questions.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. Public land is often the best resource for the city to use to increase our housing stock, since using public land allows the city to have the most discretion in the type of housing created and the affordability the housing has. Although it was not part of the final City of Yes plan, there was a proposal that looked into using Nycc infill land to build more housing. This administration has yet to release their housing plan, but I was wondering if there were any conversations on how the city can use Nycc-owned land to increase the housing stock, more importantly, affordable housing stock in the city, and if so, what are some of the administration's proposals and recommendations?
I don't think I can get into the administration's proposals until we see the final or formal housing plan, but I can say that Nycc has worked with HPD and prior administrations to build on our underutilized land. And as shared during the testimony earlier, just within the past decade, we've built nearly 1,600 units of affordable housing. That's affordable housing that is senior housing, supportive housing, family, mixed families housing. We absolutely understand the value of building more housing on our property and using our assets as a landowner to do that. We can leverage those projects to build and reinvest in our existing community. I think we are interested as a housing authority of how we can provide opportunity to our existing residents, how we can provide access to those new buildings and those new amenities for our existing residents, how we can generate revenue from those types of transactions to invest back into our community, and then to think about the housing need across the city. Mm-hmm. But really our focus should be on how we're leveraging those types of transactions or those deals for the betterment of our community and our residents.
Got it. I understand that Section 8 and 9 are under the federal government's purview, but is there any possibility of using Nycc-owned land to increase the public housing stock in the city? We have a lengthy Nycc wait list, and many New Yorkers depend on public housing as a form of affordable housing that works for them. And I would love to see if we can activate that land into being more Nycc housing.
Yep. There are costs associated with building something that is, I think what you're referring to as new Section 9
yes.
housing. And really in the federal funding landscape, to build a development that receives Section 9 funding is hard
Sure.
because of the extreme budget
Administration,
shortfall
sure.
that we have, right? And leveraging our assets for the Section 8 portfolio is really the only tool that's financially viable at the time.
And if I could just add, so Councilmember, you're aware in your district at Sumner Houses, we built a beautiful building that serves seniors,
Right.
affordable. Councilmember Banks, close to your development at Van Dyke Houses, we built 2 buildings actually, on one property. Just last year, we built at Sotomayor Houses, and just last week, we cut a ribbon at Hope Gardens too, and Councilmember Nurses. So we can do this, and it's something that the buildings are beautiful, and they also give advantage to preference, to Nycc residents who want to move in. So it
Yeah.
really works well.
As we see, RAD and PACT and the privatization of Nycc, come through our city, I think it's still important for us to build public housing. So I'm happy to hear that some of those projects have been built, and I'm here to aid in our advocacy on making sure that Nycc receives more funding so that we can build more public housing buildings within my district and across the city.
Yeah, and I do just want to clarify, those new buildings, all of our new construction buildings are Section 8. Those are project-based Section 8 buildings because that is where the funding
Sure.
is the most viable. So when we build new affordable housing, it's not Section 9.
Section 9 and that's because of the restrictions that we have due to funding streams from the federal government.
Yeah, we're unable to leverage any additional funding or a mortgage or debt through the Section 9 program because it's so inadequately.
One last thing, Chair, but I
Go
hear
ahead.
that right now, and obviously I know that the Trump administration is a bit more volatile when it comes to public housing. Hopefully things get better in 2 years under, whomever the next president will be. I think it's still important for Nycc to have a plan on what we are able to do with city-owned land when we may regain access to Section 9 funds from the federal government in a couple years so that we can build some more Section 9 housing.
Noted. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of some of the questions that Councilman Bose asked pertaining to the, I know with the infills at Van Dyke, I know Councilmember Darlene Milley has brought this up, with questioning whether there's any profit that's still being made. Is Nycc profiting from those infills, or was it just a one-time transaction, or one-time profitable transaction?
Yeah, they were one time. Those are 100% affordable, and some of the units are also supportive housing too. So it was a one-time fee.
Okay, and I know and maybe you can clarify this today, the new units, if there are any plans to do new infills, are those new units going to be converted over to RAD PAC, or will they be under traditional Section 9?
We currently have 3 new construction projects in our public pipeline. There's a building at Morris, there's one at Kingsborough, and we're working on a new construction project at Ocean Bay out in Queens. Those are the same type of new construction projects that we were just speaking of, so they're all
Right.
project-based.
They'll be
100%
project-based section, okay.
Project-based Section 8, they're all 100% affordable. They are also utilizing the new transfer of assistance tool that we were speaking about earlier. That is one of our federal tools that allows us to provide the host community or like the residents from that development direct access to one of the new units.
So they would automatically be privatized?
They are all automatically being built by a development team that will be managed by a private property management entity, just like all of the affordable housing is done in New York City.
And the project in Ocean Bay will
Right.
actually be run by a nonprofit developer.
Okay.
AFI is the nonprofit developer there, working very closely with Borough President Richards, who has provided RESOA funding.
Okay, and the units that are well, any new infills that are being proposed, the agreements with those particular the acquisition of the land or whatever, will there be preferences for Nycc and even going back to those infills that were done in Van Dyke houses. I believe there was also infills in over by Boulevard houses. Van Sicklen Commons was actually, that was Nycc land. It was a big parking lot. Was that also considered an infill?
It was, yeah, and it's something that we work very closely with East Brooklyn Congregation of
Congregations,
Churches.
right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. To build years ago.
So
So all of those
those were all
projects have a
infills.
preference for, or a set aside is what we
Right.
call it, for NYCHA residents. Traditionally, that preference or set aside goes through the HPD housing lottery system. So someone can apply
Right.
on, I think it's Housing Connect. Those are open to all of the NYCHA residents. The new tool that we're talking about, transfer of assistance, that will provide a direct subset of apartments to households at the host development. So instead of needing to apply through the HPD Housing Connect process, they'll apply through a process that NYCHA will monitor and conduct to ensure that there is immediate placement in the building.
Was there any consideration given, even with some of those older infills, outside of just giving NYCHA a preference, but also using it as a tool to rehab existing NYCHA apartments? Or somewhere like a percentage of those units being used for temporary relocations.
Yeah, I think what you're asking about is, and clarify me if I'm misinterpreting this, but how are we using the revenue generated from those buildings?
No. I'm asking you the percentage of apartments. You said that there's a percentage of apartments that's set aside for NYCHA residents, right? Through the set aside. What I'm asking you, was there any consideration giving to placing another percentage of units from those infills as relocation units to do to rehab existing NYCHA units, like say in Linden houses.
Yes, I
Before
think
they
I
were okay.
understand.
Just want to give you.
That is actually what the transfer of assistance tool is used for in other public housing authorities.
Okay.
To intentionally be able to have residents from one development move so that you can reinvest in the
Into that.
units that they vacate. With the prior preference or process through the Housing Connect, those tenants could come from any NYCHA unit kind of across the city, so it would be harder to do that type of targeted.
So it wouldn't be local, would it be?
Right.
Okay. I guess I'll go back to NYCHA as a public developer, particularly when it comes to the lots, the vacant lots that you have. How many of the developed lots are under leasing, and how many how many of those lots are for underdeveloped lots or underdeveloped lots?
Yeah, we don't have the data for how many are under like a leasing conversation. But
Okay.
we can follow up.
And how many are for underdeveloped? How many undeveloped lots?
I don't have that.
You don't have that. Okay. When it comes to the LIFT task force, what is NYCHA's involvement with the LIFT task force?
So NYCHA has not been asked to submit any new sites to the LIFT task force, but we were asked to provide City Hall with some examples. And we can't really comment more on the task force other than the examples that we've provided City Hall.
Okay, and what about the speed task force then? Is NYCHA participating in the speed task force?
We are participating in those conversations. We've had multiple conversations with the administration in earlier roundtables, particularly through our leased housing department, to think about how to expedite marketing and lease ups. We also submitted recommendations around the environmental review process, zoning changes, fees, and structures, but we are awaiting the administration's response.
Okay. Has NYCHA submitted any sites for potential development?
Through the LIFT task force, we shared some examples.
Speed task force.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Are there any NYCC specific barriers that would require state legislation to address? None that,
I don't believe we've shared that level of detail with the administration.
okay. When it comes to the other revenue streams, beyond tenant rent and public subsidy, NYCC generates revenue from retail, parking, and community facility leases. What is the current revenue from each of these streams, and can NYCC provide a list of its commercialized assets?
We can provide a list. In fact, I have it here. I could give it to you now. I could give you also the breakdown. We have $2.9 million a year in parking for commercial.
So 2.9 million?
Correct. For our community spaces, that's $1.9 million. For our rental storefronts, it's $4.1 million. And for rooftop and laundry facilities, that is $4.8 million. In total, it's close to $14 million.
Okay.
And we currently have 70 commercial spaces, and 9 of them are vacant.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Does NYCC receive, well, we had spoke about the infills already, but is there any discussions further down the line for future infills for NYCC to use those as a way to have a recurring profit from it?
Are you speaking in terms of having NYCC own and develop the property?
Well, if
for our own asset?
if that's the choice of NYCC to do it, or if it's going into an agreement with a developer of some sort, is there conversations in future to where NYCC will have recurring profit from those infills, as opposed to the infills that have been done already, where it was like a one-time acquisition or one-time?
Yeah, we'd be interested in having those conversations. I think this is part of the work of the development partnership opportunities. Those are projects that might not be on NYCC property, but where NYCC could be in an ownership entity with the partner team to receive reoccurring revenue, as you're
Right.
mentioning. We know that getting back to our roots as a private or a public developer is something we're exploring right now and something the administration is interested in. Again, those tools all take funding.
Right.
And to do that, we need subsidy and the ability to leverage that subsidy to build or repair at our sites.
Okay. I guess that concludes my questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you so much, Councilman.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm going to open the hearing up, and hopefully you can stay behind to the authority to hear from the residents. I'm opening the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and the quorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Members of the public may not present audio or video recording as testimony, but may submit transcript of such recordings to the Sergeant of Arms for inclusion into the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant of Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic, vacancies, or the 2 bills that are being heard today. If you wish to give written testimony or additional written testimony for the record, please give a copy to the Sergeant of Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. Just want to clarify, guys, that this hearing topic was about Nycc as a public developer. If we're gonna call up the panel, thank you. Uh, we have Cheryl Johnson, Emily Knowles, and Crystal Brown, and Miss Eves. We need to approach the panel, and we may need to add another chair to the panel. Thank you. No, no, you can't, man. You gotta. Just for clarification, PAC is on for topic today, so you'll be able to give testimony. Yes. Uh, you, yeah, you can. You're Crystal Brown. Yes. Oh, sorry about that, ma'am. Yes, it's all right. It's all right. Thank you. You may begin your testimony. You have 2 minutes. All right. Thank you. You have to put the.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Emily Knowles. The I'm the president of Colin Life in Queens. The reason why I'm here today because all at once I had get a notice from PAC saying that Colin Life is going into PAC. Nobody told us anything. No one asked us to vote. We was just push and do it. We are a senior building. We're not run down like most of housing buildings. If you walk into Colin Life, only because you'll know it belongs to the city because you see the sign outside say city. But if you walk in, you think it's a private building. We are a small building. We only one building. We got 12 floors. It say 14, but 2 floors are not nothing on it. Why put that into a pack when there's nothing wrong with it? The resident at Colin Life, today I'm here on account of my resident. We do not want Colin Life. We want to make it clear that we don't want to go into the pack. We're in Section 9. We want to stay where we are. When the pack came in, they sent a letter saying that they came to us last year. I haven't had no meeting with no one last year. They came in February the 19th. Here they telling me we have to go in with them. I don't want to go in. They saying we have breaking stuff. That's why they taking over. Everything has been fixed. Outside our building has been fixed up. Our windows, everything been fixed up. Only thing is missing is my elevator. The elevator money was given to our elevator about 3 years ago, I signed papers, but when PAC came on the 26th of March, they said to me, "Oh, it's gone. We take it because you're in the PAC game."
Right. You've a minute to finish.
Yes, they told me they take the money, they put it in the PAC game, in a PAC, because we was obligated to go into the PAC. You cannot take money that already was given from 2022, $1.77 billion to do 2 elevators. That's the only thing wrong in our building. We got new washers, we got everything, we got new brand doors. They didn't do it. Nycc didn't do it. Council and money, the representatives and things around Queens, they always, because we're a senior building, and we would like to be a senior. We don't want to be worrying about, at our age, we're supposed to be able to live comfortably and peaceful. I think I pay enough tithes in enough tax in New York City to be that way.
Thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
Now we're going to move to Crystal Brown.
Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Brown. I'm a TA Vice President of Eastchester Gardens. And before, should I be talking while they're talking? Oh,
You may begin your testimony.
Okay. Before the PAC, we went under PAC, our place was, Eastchester Gardens was a disaster. All right, we couldn't get no services really done. It was just a nightmare. These guys came in on a Thursday. By that Saturday, our complete project was clean. All right, and it's been that way ever since they took it over. Now, as far as, we're in our third building of being reverted, beautiful. Things have been going really well for us, and we're still at our 30% paying rent. Nothing has changed. And we have social services there. We have all the services that we didn't have, we have now. So I'm pretty happy with what's going on. I've been there for 54 years. And back when I was a kid, the place was clean, everything, housing was running, marvelously. But you know what? I don't know what happened over the years. I mean, I guess with the cuts of money or whatever took place, it became a disaster. And I've was in touch with housing. I mean, the maintenance, it was like a nightmare, ongoing nightmare there. But now we seem to be kind of leveling down, and people seem to be very happy. We were afraid at first, but it has gotten better.
Okay. Does that complete your testimony?
Yes, it does.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
Ms. Brown. We'll now move on to Cheryl Johnson.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Johnson. I am the secretary of Colin Life Towers Advisory Group. I work for the tenants. I stand before you today on the behalf of myself and the residents of Colin Life Towers that we are all in agreement that we do not want PAC. I feel that at 60, 70, 80, and 90 years old, we should not be uprooted, relocated until they fix what they say that we have, which is not true. I've only been at Conley Towers a year and some months, but I'm pretty satisfied for where I am. And I love my new place of residence. I'm the youngest of the board. Okay, I'm the youngest. The rest of them are older than me. But I'm trying to say that I think it's not in the best interest of us being respectfully that we don't need PAC to come in. We only one building on that block that they come in and that they say they're going to do all these repairs that we don't know what they're talking about because we were doing fine. They were doing repairs. And the next thing I know, they took our money for our elevators. That's what we need. We need our elevator repair money back so we can get in our new elevators installed. So I thank you for your time and attention in this matter.
Thank you for your advocacy, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Eves, you may begin your testimony. You want to pull the mic so we can?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You may begin your testimony.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Banks, I wanted to say something to you and the committee. I applaud that you give us the opportunity to speak in the open forum, because sometimes where you live, you are not able to speak and your rights are being violated, where management play games with the tenants and the tenant association and make one go against each other, to the point that sometimes they try to shut you up and try to make it seem that everything is the tenant's fault, and it's not the tenant's fault. What they do is they play games as far as that everyone is not intelligent and not articulate, even though that we do have some people that don't understand what's going on and they play on those factors. As such, a lot of times management allowed the tenant association to run the meeting to explain what they need to be explaining to the tenants, and sometimes all the information is misinformation, and it's wrong. They monopolize the tenant association meetings. Sometimes they don't even show up because now they're at odds. At the end of the day, tenants have the right to speak their own opinion, whether you are aligned with management or the tenant association president, to the point that myself and my family are being harassed, and we're being harassed by in the court system. As such, where the CEO high above stated that we do not have the right for a hearing, we don't have a right to be able to go to management and bring our concerns.
You have a
It's
minute
only
to
the-
wrap it up.
It's only the courts that's able to allow it to be heard. I think it's wrong, because at the end of the day, half the things that they said that they was going to do, they did not do, because I have never heard in the time that when we was public housing that a management was bringing a tenant to court for repairs. How can something be repairs and we just went through a renovations? There's a lot of things that still was not completed, still not done. They try to make it seem as if it's the tenants that's at fault, and it's not. There's a lot of things that are not transparent. They keep saying transparency. There is no transparency. It's nothing but collusion and being very cunning. And at the end of the day, we are humans. We should not be treated as such. For me, they promote violence. As far as among the tenants going against each other, the board is not together, and they know this. And what they do is they pretend like they don't know, is because they want us to be able to focus on what's happening among the tenants, instead of us focusing on what the real action is. Because at the end of the day, if we went through a renovation, how is it that we're able to get different entities to come and speak, to say a lot of things that have not been done that should have been done, like the piping and things of that nature? At the end of the day, they are using the court system to the point that they're saying that there is not a high eviction rate. That is not true. Under Stanley Avenue preservation, I should say Stanley Avenue plantation, because they are treating us as if we're going back in time, as if we don't matter. All it is about money, and it's OPM, where they assume that we should not. OPM, the statement for me is that they're down with other people money. I feel that the tenants are being trafficked just the same way that other people are through sex trafficking, but what they're doing is they're using the federal government to do this, and it's wrong to what they're doing.
Thank you,
and
Ms.
I
Eve.
appreciate for what you have done for us so far.
And just want clarity. This is concerning Penn Workman houses.
Yes, Penn Workman houses.
It's under Rad Pack now. Converted.
Yes, that went from bad bad to worse, and it's worsening.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Oh, and to Miss Johnson, you said that there was supposed to be a meeting, or I think your president had said there was a Nycc was supposed to reach out, or said that they've met with you all, and you said that you've never had a meeting.
Pat
Pat, well,
said they had reached out to me last year. Pat did not. Pat didn't. They have never reached out to me last year. They said they had a meeting with me. I know they
Okay.
called me last year, and I never do the meeting with them because I was in London. So I couldn't do a meeting with somebody when I'm on another continent.
have they held any community engagement
they
meetings?
came at February. They showed up at February, and they had a meeting with all my residents, which they came down and forced. And my building is like the United Nations. You got every language you think about is in that building.
Right.
So if you're coming in that building like that, don't you supposed to bring people that could communicate with these people?
Yeah, interpreters. Yeah.
They told me they were going to bring them. When they get there that day, they say, "Oh, we left the speakers so they could put in their ear." So 6 o'clock, I told my kindergarten they could go upstairs because that's what I call them. They're seniors.
Right.
Time for them to go take their medication. Why are you sitting down there and you don't understand what's going on?
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Now the next panel is going to be L.A. Chioke Dinkins. Dinkins is the last name. Bill Gross. Denise Robinson. Robertson. She left. And Nilda. From Colin. Nilda? Nilda, you can come up to the. Nilda? Oh, yes, it's all right. So we got Nilda. Is Bill here? Bill? And the last name is Dickens. Christina Chase. Step to the bathroom. Mr. Scarcy, Medane. All right. And I think we have room for one more person. Andre Green. You're not, no time. Okay. Thank you. We're gonna add one more to the panel. Can we get another Flores? Flores. You can come to the dais. Yeah. Sorry, the panel. And we will start to my left. Yes, you may begin your testimony.
Thank you so much. My name is Christina Chase. I am second vice president of Ravenswood Houses. This is my son, Mateo.
Hi.
Can you say protect public housing? Yeah.
Welcome.
We're here today. Okay, you don't have to copy me. To protect public housing. It's a very Orwellian title, but we want to make sure that NYCC continues to build more Section 9 public housing.
Right.
It's mind-boggling to us how our land is just looked at, and not us, the families who live on there, and our relationship with it. I can write you an eloquent statement, but
Take your
really what
time.
I wanted to share was my own experience on the RA board. We did a little field trip, packed a Mercedes-Benz that took us up to the Bronx.
Right.
It was lipstick on a pig. really for me. It was beautiful, don't get me wrong. I want to live in a beautiful space too. But what most concerned me was the way in which, um, you know, the bad ones, aka the people that the new management picks up on cameras because they use cameras as their security, are so quick to be evicted. There's a culture that no one's talking about in these PAC developments that's punitive and that's really quick to get rid of residents. Moreover, those residents are not being they're not being able to access their rights towards informal grievance processes and the procedures that have been put in place to make sure that evictions don't happen in the first place. If the whole point of public housing is to provide housing, then let's do that instead of pushing people out. But moreover, besides evictions, transfers are, and as well as succession rights, are not being honored. I have a colleague here today who's going to share with you some of those facts and statistics, but we just know it's not working. We know on the ground it's not working, and by it, the PAC conversions, all conversions. I'm so happy Chi said what's not being said is it's not a lost cause. Funding can be restored and expanded. It's about political choice. More dollars go to a unit post conversion than when it's the same unit beforehand, and it's coming from the same place, our Congress. So it's not about not having the money, it's about having the political will to actually subsidize Section 9 public housing and really to protect our housing from being commodified and being sold. Housing's our right. And the more we move away from that, the more we move towards a whole shelter industrial complex system for the poor people.
You have 30 seconds to wrap it up.
And just further segregation. Just wanted no infill. I want to connect everyone here to our Astoria Houses president, who has had a terrible experience with infill and is still going through it. It just concentrates inequality even more. And we would love to sit down with our city council committee for public housing to really provide a people's plan that can find funding, right. And invest and expand and build the 24,000 Section 9 units that we have the ability to. We just have to build the political will. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Banks, members of the Public Housing Committee. My name is Mateen Sarsi. I serve as the co-chair of the Housing, Land Use, and Zoning Committee for Manhattan Community Board 9. I'm also an employee of the New York City Housing Authority. However, I'm testifying today in my personal capacity, and the views expressed in this statement are my own and do not reflect any official position or policy. Nearly 100 years ago, founders realized through economic analysis that there exists a population of New Yorkers that the private sector will never profit from. By building for this population, the private sector was freed to focus on the upper income bracket. Today, many advocates of social housing fail to understand how NYCC actually works. We see new legislation and hundreds of millions of dollars materialize instantly when there's a traffic accident, when somebody's pushed in the subway, or there's a fire that displaces residents. Yet addressing the misery of 500,000 residents is too costly. Building cheap on underdeveloped land is a fallacy. It necessitates massive new spending on water, electricity, schools, transportation, and city infrastructure. I want to present a different vision for public housing that begins with stabilizing NYCC through governance reform. We must expand the board to fulfill the legal obligations of the NYCC board bylaws. The absence of resident and community affairs committee has allowed for reactive rather than proactive decision-making, leading to a lack of oversight. We must transition administrative authority to localized resident stakeholders by establishing an Office of Resident Management Corporations. This allows resident associations to manage site-specific operations and reinvest surpluses directly into preventative maintenance, correcting a culture that over-relies on external consultants. I would agree with the Community Service Society that the authority must evolve into a lead developer, and as Brian mentioned, this will require multiple levels of intervention. The 2026 Housing Supply Report from the Rent Guidelines Board identifies a record low vacancy rate of 0.98%. To address this, NYCC should utilize its real estate development department to develop private and underutilized city-owned parcels. Following Speaker Menon's Small Lots Big Impact initiatives, NYCC can act as a cluster developer for these marginal sites. This allows for the production of mixed finance units, which should include Section 9, Section 8, and 60 to 100% AMI units, diversifying our portfolio, financing while also allowing for private enterprise to use the City of Yes and the new city fast tracking rules. Finally, we must shift towards social infrastructure by developing a program for organizational constituent services that reduces the headache for external partners working with NYCC to the point of turning them into supporters. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. You may begin.
Blessings. First, I want to give a shout out to Nycc for staying. Thank you. Now I have to change everything up. So anyway, blessing Chair Banks and members of the committee. My name is Nilda. Usually I attend these meetings to observe and listen. However, today I'm speaking for the first time. For several years, I've listened to residents testify at hearings like this one. I constantly hear that resident voice matter. However, many of the same individuals who have testified for years feel that their voice is not being heard. Many have repeatedly requested for a moratorium on the PAC program, yet to this date, the moratorium still has not occurred. If residents' voices truly matter, then why hasn't NYCC not honored the repeated request for the moratorium of the PAC program? Why has this not been formally scheduled or discussed and documented, just as NYCC does with their board meetings, their financial meetings, and the Preservation Trust meeting? While researching the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development website, I came across a sample resident information notice related to the rental assistance demonstration program. The language in that documentation notably is different from the notice that NYCC provides to the residents. And I want to highlight a paragraph from the sample resident information notice. The HUD documentation clearly states that the RAD is a voluntary program. I'm going to repeat, it is a voluntary program, and that the residents will continue to receive the rental assistance whether or not the conversion occurs. It also emphasized that the residents' rights and explains how the changes may affect. This raises an important question. Why is NYCC resident information notice different from the HUD? I will submit the sample documentation for the record. And at this time, I'm asking NYCC to clearly identify and describe what partnership really means, because from what I'm seeing, from what I'm seeing, visiting multiple developments that already undergone conversion, many residents are not satisfied. Even more troubling, some residents are afraid to speak out due to the fear of the retaliation. I want to highlight a question that former council member Inez Barnes repeatedly asks. What power do residents have as if they say no to PAC? I'm going to say it again. What power do residents have if they say no to PAC? The question remains unanswered. There's a 24 CRF Part 964 federal regulation that outlines the tenant participation right. This is a powerful tool, yet it's basically underutilized because the overwhelming majority of residents are unaware that it even exists. This is unacceptable. It will be a requirement that every public housing resident is educated about this right. We should stand on the shoulder of the civil rights leaders who fought to ensure that we have these protections. The least we can do is make sure that the residents are informed and empowered to use them.
Thank you for your testimony. You may begin your testimony, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon, Council of New York. My name is Mary Flores, and I am a senior resident at the Shelton Housing. I want to raise serious safety concerns in the building. The elevators that are frequently out of service, and residents, including seniors, have been getting stuck. Recently, someone was trapped for about 30 minutes without a phone. For a senior building, this is dangerous. Many residents use wheelchairs or have serious medical conditions like dialysis. When elevators fail, they cannot safely leave or return to their apartments. The front entrance, I want to mention as well. of the lobby is also a problem. The door is very heavy and difficult to open, specifically for seniors and wheelchair users. Even emergency responders have had trouble getting in, and a first floor resident has repeatedly opened the door, disrupting their ability to rest. These are basic safety conditions for a senior building and should not be optional. I am asking for immediate action, reliable elevator services, a working emergency response system, and an accessible entrance. I want to state that these residents are concerned about the proposed changes to the building and want to preserve their current housing protections and stability. These are basic safety and stability needs for a senior community, and they must be treated as a priority. We want to remain in housing in a housing that protects seniors and long-term residents with clear rights and reliable service. Changes should strengthen and not weaken the protections. I thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. No. Your testimony. Oh, your testimony. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. Kevin Conan. Terry Campuzano. Anna Luff. And Christopher Johnson. Kevin, you may begin your testimony, Mr. Conan.
Good afternoon. I'm a candidate for Assembly in Astoria District 36, and I'm here to advocate for the Astoria houses, the Ravenswood houses, and the Queensbridge houses. Nobody should have to live with rats, broken elevators, unsafe stairwells, ceiling collapses, lighting failures, water damage, and crime. I've inspected a lot of these buildings. I've been on runs to come help people stuck in elevators. And I think it's a disgrace that the city of New York is the worst landlord in the city. They're spending $5 million a month to house people in hotels, in Row New City and Crown Plaza, $2 million a month, $300 a night, and they can't find the money to help these people. I think it's a disgrace. It's terrible. So it's sad that nobody's here. Mrs. Brewer just walked in. Everybody leaves. They don't even listen to the people at all. The walls in City Hall are so thick, they can't hear anything. But when it comes to giving themselves a 16% raise, going from 142,000 to 172,000 a year, they can't find the money just to clean up these buildings, fix the elevators. It's a disgrace, and I don't even want to use up my time because I think all of these people have said what they have to say, and nobody even listens to them up here. It's really, really sad.
That concludes your testimony. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Terry Campuzano.
Hello. Nice being back.
Good to see you.
Now, I have the three options were PAC, Trust, and Nycc. Why were we not told about the comprehensive remodification program from the beginning? I asked Eva Trumbull about the program about a year ago. She told me it was a pilot program that ran out of money. Now I hear that the program is up and working. We are told once we choose PAC, we can't go back. If we aren't happy, we just can't jump back into housing. Number three, right now we are told that PAC managements are there for 10 years. The PAC management seem to be the most scary part of this program. So we would like to have a probationary management contracts for only 5 years. scary until I met Crystal Brown, so she's given me a little hope about our management. Okay, we are slated for a new building in Melton Park. We know that the community, well, we don't know if the community will go for it yet. It was tried before and shut down. However, it does happen that we would like Maine Melton to go, if possible, under the Comprehensive Remodification Program, possibly with self-management or Nycc management. This way, we, the seniors, have both of best options and best, because a lot of our people do like Maine Meltzer. Remaining in Meltzer, remaining in our Meltzer building, somehow we've been placed with Nycc-sponsored attorneys. Attorney firm are basically a real estate firm just waiting in the shadows. We are looking for our own help to guide us through the end of this process, which hopefully will be take root justice. Okay.
Thank you for your testimony.
Another thing is Nycc has a hell of a nerve saying that one apartment would take a year to fix, and they have done the Kosciuszko Bridge. It took them 1 year to do one. They took them another year to do the other bridge. That's 2 years it took to build that Kosciuszko. So I think Nycc, something's wrong that they're saying to the people that it's going to take a year to just do one apartment. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Luff.
Thank you. Greetings, Chair Banks and members of the New York City Council Committee on Public Housing. Thank you for this opportunity to testify today. My name is Anna Luft, and I'm the Associate Director for Housing Policy and Advocacy at the New York Legal Assistance Group. I also lead our Public Housing Justice Project. I was going to devote my testimony today to discuss the need for resident management corporations. But instead, I'm going to pivot, and I'll submit that to you in writing, because I want to uplift and echo the testimony of the tenants who spoke earlier, because many of them touched on recurring issues that we see both in our direct representation and our community outreach and through our hotline. First, I want to talk about language access during the PACT conversions. We see on a regular basis tenants coming to us saying that they are not receiving any of the PACT conversion materials in their language, or they're going to the scheduled outreach events and education events, and they're not being provided with any interpretation. Clients of ours who are monolingual Spanish speaking and send us every single document they receive in the mail as soon as they receive it. Seniors going through PACT conversions are not receiving documents in their language. What happens then is that these seniors, if they need to make adjustments to their lease during conversion, or they need to participate in the PACT pilot program, are not being given, are not able to access the information they need to preserve their housing or preserve their households in the way that they need to. We have, all right.
You have a minute.
All right. We've raised this with leased housing through our direct representation and are repeatedly told to just, these are one-off cases and that we should just elevate each of those cases. This is clearly a pervasive problem. Another problem is that this then has cascading effects on people's rights post-conversion. It impacts succession. It impacts households' abilities to remain stably housed, families' abilities to remain stably housed when the tenant of record dies. And it also has a direct impact on the significant increase that we see in eviction rates, because we end up in housing court with no meaningful recourse, even with extensive advocacy. Tenants shouldn't have to hope that they end up with a right to counsel attorney who happens to have a relationship with NYCC in order to resolve these issues. This information should be provided readily, openly, and in every language that tenants need. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Christopher Johnson.
Yeah, hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. I want to say this right now that this topic, I think is like an oxymoron. Nycc will never, in this state, Nycc will never ever be the path to create affordable housing. Let's make this clear that when it comes to PACT and RAD, this is basically about making sure that the Yimbys get what they want, especially around Fulton. If you ever been around Fulton, Chris, you got to walk around Fulton, not have Layla show you Fulton. You got to go yourself, probably with the by yourself to Fulton by yourself and see that this Tao, New York, which is ran by Andrew Ridgie, Googleplex, which is the Google HQ for New York City, and right across the street from the 16th Street Nycc building is New York One, which is Chelsea Market. So of course Lilo Glisco will never tell you that because she had to get on New York One. They're not gonna tell you this stuff, brother. You got to go yourself and look at it. Look at the building was around that Nycc complex, and that's why they really want that place demolished because it's a land grab, and they don't want those people around. They see those people there as undesirables. Just like when those people from CCOP that need to be eradicated, they call the people that actually live there roaches, less than roaches. So the truth of the matter of fact is that, man, look, bro, as a chair of the public safety, public housing, you have to go to those housing developments yourself. You got to take a walk around it yourself. Take your staffer guy, take your staffer right there one day by yourself. Don't have nobody that's with Little Oglisco showing you around, and you'll see why they want that place out of there. Let me tell you the truth that this is a hard fight when it comes to Fulton, Chelsea being staying up, but the truth of the matter of fact is it's going down, whether people like it or not. They don't want those people around there no more, especially with coming to me back in district. So, bro, as a man, you got to go there yourself and not have a person that has a vested interest of protecting certain things in place like Little Oglisco show you those developments. Because if you look at it yourself as a black man, I could tell you came from the gutter, you see what's going on. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Now we're going to proceed to our Zoom testimony. We will now turn to remote testimony. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant of Arms will give you a go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the Sergeant of Arms to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. We will now begin with Dana Eldon.
You may begin.
I'm unmuted. Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Banks. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Chaplain Dana Eldon. I'm president of St. Mary's Park Houses, and I appreciate this opportunity. It serves as a foundation for economic mobility, educational attainment, and overall well-being that Section 9 remain a part of NYCC and be funded as well. However, there are several challenges that need to be addressed, and I'm aware of those challenges. As a member of Residents to Preserve Public Housing, a founding member, we have met with you, Chair Banks, before. I stress the fact that there is not enough attention being paid to Section 9, and this rush to change these developments to Section 8 is just that, a rush, where we are finding all across the city complaints of shoddy workmanship, cheap materials. People are still having the same issues that they had when they moved in, thinking that everything was good, but it's just cosmetic. And at the end of the day, the money that is going into these efforts is astronomical. But none of it is being shed into Section 9, which is unfair. And with a third of the population being seniors like myself and disabled like myself, to be uprooted and be sent around the city or to another development is just cruel. It's absolutely cruel. And my feeling is that there should be more attention paid to the developments as they are. My development 2 years ago had 20 vacancies. As of yesterday, is 110 vacancies. 20% of 1,007 apartments are Section 8.
Thank you. Your
Only
time
20%.
expired.
She has a minute to wrap it up. You have an extra minute to wrap it up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The remainder are Section 9. Why is it that we have so many vacancies? And why is it that management continues to lie to us about the status of those vacancies, saying that they don't have a right or they don't have the ability to fill them? This is ludicrous. And in Section 9 developments, it is the rents that are the revenue that is needed to upkeep. There has to be something done, Chair Banks. There has to be something done immediately. This has gone on way too long, and people are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And now we'll move to Ramona Ferrara.
You may begin.
Good afternoon. Ramona Ferreira, Safe Section 9, Mitchell Houses. I thought I would share how many of us are coming together to talk about the solutions and the future of public housing, because the Housing Authority continues to focus on actually pushing forward privatization, which is something that the tenants do not want and do not benefit from. So after reviewing Nycc's physical needs assessment, Safe Section 9 and Community Service Society both look at the number of 80 billion as inflated and find that the actual need is closer to 41.4 billion. And this is over a 20-year period. Right now, we have an opportunity to shift the mayor's budget allocation of 662 million away from project-based Section 8 and towards comprehensive modernization, which Nycc just testified is something that is possible as long as they have the money to do it. 662 million would actually rehabilitate an entire development, which is at the top of Nycc's physical needs assessment list. In addition to that, Speaker Menon found $750 million that had not been spent by the states yet and are supposed to be allocated to Nycc. We would call for that to also be issued as a comprehensive modernization opportunity for Ravenswood houses, which could also be comprehensively modernized through that. And when we look at shifting things away from project-based Section 8 and towards Section 9, what we're looking at is an opportunity to bring back online 2,166 units just at Ravenswood houses, and making sure that we bring back 2,162 units at Wagner houses. So in the fiscal
You have an extra minute to wrap it up.
Okay. So thank you. During the fiscal crisis that New York is facing, housing insecurity will continue to worsen. And this is the time where we urge the council and the speaker to be bold and actually invest in housing that could provide stability, benefits, rights, and opportunities for the next 100 years.
Thank you for your testimony. This is the end of our Zoom testimony. If we have inadvertently missed any that have registered to testify today and has yet to have been called, please use the Zoom raise hand function if you are testifying remotely, and you will be called in the order that your name has been raised. If you're testifying in person, please come to the dais. Seeing none, I will now close the hearing. Thank you to the members of the administration and to the members of the public who have joined us today to discuss this very important topic. This hearing is adjourned.